What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Bland back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. Sorry about the late start, everybody. I do greatly apologize. Everybody that is here right now, do sorry about the late start. Was running around all day, man. I was super exhausted, but we're here now. We got the show going a little bit late, but I do apologize. Everybody that's here rocking out with us right now, we are here. Sorry about the late start, everybody. But as you guys can see, we just got the original three amigos today. Shout out to everybody that is in the chat. Retweet the link. Let everybody know we are live. Once again, sorry about the late start. So let everybody know. Reach out, tell everybody the show is actually starting right now. So once again, I apologize for that. But we rocking. It's been an amazing week. Got a lot to talk about. I've missed you guys quite a bit. I've been away. So ever since I've been back to work, man, I just been working nonstop. But it's always good to have this show on Saturday. I got to get that juice flowing. Got to get that good going. So I'm good today. But man, let's get into this. Let me throw this over to my compatriots here. These two gentlemen that make me look good every single Saturday, man. Shout out to everybody in chat. What's up, Pong? How you doing, man? Sorry about the late start, brother.
Hey, man, sometimes, the check had to clear before Fuzzy and I were willing to come on tonight. It happens, right? Man, it happens. So just glad we could get that check approval done, and we're good. So we're here to do the show. Let's go, man. It's been great, brothers. Great to be back on another Saturday night. I was off last night from Xbox Ultimate, so it's been a little less podcasting for me this week, but I had a great show with Steel this morning. Otherwise, man, oh man, Remnant 2 has got its clutches in me. Yes, sir. Man. Yes, sir. A lot of people, breaking records today. 110,000 concurrent player, 109,000 something concurrent players on Steam. The high for Remnant 1 was like 48. So Gunfire Games, hats off. Remnant 2 is an absolutely phenomenal game experience. It is creative. It's not perfect. There's performance issues, no doubt about it. They got to clean some stuff up. It's not, it's not A1. But let me tell you, it's my dark horse game of the year. It's got to be in conversations just because of how creative the game is. We've played it almost every single day since last Friday when it first came out in early release, and just have an absolute blast. Either solo or with with Steel and Jasper, and we have just been running that game nonstop. It's about time we're going to get back into some Diablo, though. Season 1 is calling. Season 1 is calling. There's no doubt about it. I think we're going to get some Diablo in tonight, but that's been my whole gaming week, man. Otherwise, a nice kind of quiet week. News, but some really cool stuff. Some games showing up with some gameplay and looking really, really good. Armored Core 6 and obviously Lords of the Fallen looking fantastic. Path of the Exile 2 showing up and dropping bombs all over Blizzard. Like, they're coming. Next year, we might talk about this later, but 2024, we might not have another out of this world action RPG looter dropping into our laps, which is going to be free to play. But man, Path of Exile 2, I've been watching some of their live stuff. They got a fan fest going on, and they're breaking it wide open, and they're not pulling any punches. They're coming after Blizzard, and so this is going to be interesting. Love to see this. We saw the influence Path of Exile had on Diablo 4, but Path of Exile said, oh, you know what? You're going to go ahead and take some of our stuff? Well, guess what? We're not just going to update Path of Exile 1 to 2. No. It's going to be a full game release now, so buckle up. Beta in 2024. We are going full out with this game. We are leaning into everything that we are. We're not simplifying anything, and we're just going to do what we do. So you better get your house in order, Blizzard. And I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing out of this crew over there. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into. So let's get down to business, PTK.
Awesome. I love hearing all of that, man. We love competition here at the Shop Podcast. We like to spread the love around for sure. So that is going to be interesting to see. And like you said, man, we've been talking about that. 2024 we could have back-to-back, years, iconic, historic years. So, and that's starting to become a regular thing, Pong. That we might start. That might start to be an annual thing, right?
Content, baby. I mean? There's a lot of people making a whole lot of games and a whole lot of money, and that pandemic backed everything up, and the floodgates are wide open now. So the next, this year, next year, and even possibly, 2025 are looking pretty stacked as is right now.
Yeah, and anybody worried about consolidation, please don't be. As you guys can see, you don't really need to be. So you can just go ahead and let that go. It's good. It's all right. So you know, there's gonna be plenty of games being made, as you can see. So shout out to you for coming through, Pong. I appreciate you, bro. You guys follow Pong. You guys already know what to do. You know what I mean? The Battery of the Shop podcast here, man. I appreciate all you guys. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Gabe, Black Card, Mav, Talos, everybody. Share that link out, guys. It got a little bit late of a start today. I do apologize for that, man. It's been a whirlwind of a day, but we here. We ready to go now, man. So make sure your fellow gamers know the Shop podcast is actually live and it's actually starting right now. So let's throw this over to you, Fuzz. How you been, bro? What you been playing, man? What's going on with you, brother?
So I've been doing good. Just trying to stay off of social media a bit because some weird takes as usual. But other than that, just playing a lot of Diablo. Still hanging on to Division 2 because of the clothing event. Although I think I got that wrapped up with the most recent one. Forza Horizon 5 got the cars for this past week. And also have the I guess the first one for the month. The second one I'm about 20 points away, I think. And then there was an update for Undisputed, which definitely keep your eye out for that when that eventually comes to console. But for right now, it's going through some growing pains on PC. They're kind of, working with the AI, making them a little bit smarter. But for the most part, having fun with that. And then other than that, just been trying to, I guess, do the research or my research or the numbers and the Excel sheets and all that for my barbarian build.
Yeah.
I have like almost like a perfect sword that's for slashing, one-handed sword, and just have yet to find any other weapon with the talent that I have on it. And I've pretty much done all the barbarian dungeons, but yeah, I gotta find that talent on another weapon and then put it on something new, because right now that thing is like a 545 and everything I got is like in the 700s.
So I'm struggling too with Barbarian. That was a class I had switched over to from Rogue, man. Just it's not as efficient yet to use as Rogue. I'm struggling, Pong, Fuzz. Like I was looking at my build. I'm looking at my build, and it's just it hasn't gotten to that point to where I'm like over the hill. Like I feel good about the build.
Mav switched to Druid. He started Barbarian and didn't like it.
I might have to, man. Yeah, I might have to, because I'm not. I enjoy it at times, but it's not an efficient character. Like I don't know what it is. Like maybe my build's backwards, or maybe I need to respec, but it's just not efficient. Like I'm not having a whole lot of fun with it, to be honest.
Yeah, if you're not having fun with it, that's all. I mean, again, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So if it's just not your type of build, then it's not your type of build. It is pretty linear for the most part, right? You got your shouts, you got your whirlwind. That's the problem that Mav had. Just kind of felt like it was monotonous, kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And just again, it's not gonna be for everybody, but that's why they got multiple classes. So maybe try switching over, man. I'm loving Necro. I'm loving Necro, man. Necro.
I started a Druid today. This morning I started a Druid. So
Mav's loving his Druid too.
Yeah, I originally was supposed to do Druid. I've been putting this shit off, and now I'm finally to where I was. I'm starting the class I should have been started a long time ago anyway. So.
Yeah, for the most part, with me with Barbarian, I have it where the two one-handeds basically knock them with a bludgeon weapon and then slice them, make them bleed. And that either stuns them or it makes them bleed enough to the point where all I got to do is the two-handed swing, and it's like instant decapitation or instant kill, unless it's an elite. And with an elite, I get like a refund or a fury each time I slice them. So it's like I can just constantly just slice them in place. So been pretty happy with it, but that's why I need that talent that I have on one of the other items, where it's like I have two opposing ones where you switch weapons every 10 swings or something like that, or after switching weapons between the two every 10 swings, it basically is like one hit kills at that point.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But yeah, I'm having fun with it. Sorcerer, I haven't even really played the Eternal since the update, but here and they buffed a few things as far as survivability, or that's the plan for when this next patch comes, I guess next month. But still having fun with it, but still also having fun with Division 2, even though I'm mad at Ubisoft for kind of leaving that to kind of go on autopilot.
Die on the vine.
I know, right? Come on, man.
Fuzzy, Path of Exile 2 might be right up your alley next year, brother. I'm telling you, man. 1,500 passive skills.
That's crazy.
Oh
That's
my
insane,
God.
man. That OD with that, like that OD, like that's so intentionally like disgusting. Like
it's
that's
so
that's almost
amazing, bro.
that's to the point to where like we're just going to go so far beyond where like people could think. Like that's so it's so annoying though. Like I love it. I love the competition of it, but it's so annoying.
The running joke is you have to be a mathematicien to play Path of Exile 2. So it's like, right up. It's right up.
Schematics, bro. The skill tree. It's ridiculous. Pong showed me and I didn't know what the hell it was. I'm like, what
you should see the new one. That's what I'm saying. It's even bigger than Path of Exile 1, bro. 1,500.
Yeah.
Like, run me a quick calculation on the probability of I got 33.333 repeat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man.
That's what they go for, man.
To do that skill tree, man.
Yes. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun next year. Oh man, I can't wait. But yeah, no, I understand, Fuzzy, and obviously Division. We all wish Division 2 wasn't being left to rot. I mean, they had it, man. They had it. I don't think Heartland's gonna replace it. Steel had some fun with it when he tried it, but overall, again, I just don't think they're gonna replace what they had between Division 1 and Division 2 with this Heartland. I think it's going to leave sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, unfortunately. We'll see, but I don't have any faith in it right now.
Yeah. Ubisoft, I hate to say it, somebody needs to acquire them and get that Guillaume family out of there. I've been saying that so much. Hopefully it comes true at some point, but we'll see.
Awesome, man. Let's get into it, man. But it's your boy PTK Blam. Like I said, sorry for the late start. Apologize, but we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna jump right into the topics. But shout out to the people that did take part in the poll of the week, man. Almost 500 people took part in that poll, so I appreciate you guys doing that. If you want to be a part of that, every single Monday on my Twitter feed, I post that on Twitter. Lord have mercy, I'm not gonna get used to this X thing. I'm sorry.
Oh come on,
like,
it's just X. It's easy.
Just call it the social media platform known as Twitter.
The alphabet platform. I don't know what the hell to call this.
And they came out. Was it today? They came out and confirmed it's when you put something on X, it's just called a post. So you posted on posted a post.
Oh, it's a post.
You posted a post. Yeah. So you posted a post. You posted a post today on X.
Posters. Oh, okay. Multiple posts or posters, right? Like I don't know, but
or
anyway,
Zeets
man,
or whatever they're gonna go with, right?
I have no idea what the hell they're doing with this app. Elon, you just out here
doing
side missions.
I love it. I love he's got everybody fired up like you guys. I think it's awesome, man. I think it's great.
I'm gonna call them tweets chat until further notice. So please
fine.
Excuse me. All right, it's just in my DNA. I can't get it out. So anyway, on Twitter, as we know it, formerly known as the Bird app. No, but if you guys want to take part in that, just follow me there. All that information is down in the description below, and we do that every single Monday. But we're gonna dive right in. We jumping off the porch since we got a late start, man. Shout out to everybody who are here. Like I said, let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. We started a little bit late today, but we are here, man. So I wanted to dive into kind of the left field stuff that happened this week. So we're gonna jump right off the porch. Pong, Fuzz, and I want to talk about the recent news of the relationship with Square Enix and Xbox. That's something that obviously we saw this week. Yeah, we jumping off the porch with it, man. We got a lot to cover today. So that was interesting. That obviously happened this week, chat, and it was super duper interesting because Square Enix and Xbox, that is the one relationship from a company abroad that we always said, like, you know, is that ever going to be, you know, fixed? Are they ever going to mend that relationship? What's going on? We've always had so many questions because the relationship has always been so hit or miss. They trickle feed Xbox fans games, and they give them games here and there, seemingly just randomly. There's really no rhyme or reason as to what game Square Enix decides to put on Xbox. Now with this new partnership, they're on stage holding hands, you know, kind of like, you know, Power Ranger kind of situation. You know, they're kind of holding hands and posing together, which is really cool because we know that's what Phil wants. We talked about this. You know, how is he going to mend that relationship? Is he ever going to mend that relationship? We talked about Sony possibly buying Square. You know, is that relationship ever going to get to a point, you know, due to Sony's business relationship with Square? Is it ever going to get to the point with Xbox where they're going to take advantage of the Xbox base and start putting games here? So I kind of want to get you guys just quick opinions. We'll start with you, Pong, because I know that one was kind of left field, bro. It was just out of nowhere. You know, all of a sudden we saw Phil on stage with Yoshi P and you know, another I can't remember the gentleman from the other guy from Square exactly.
It's Curia, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the new CEO, right? Curia.
Yeah, big boss over there.
The new guy.
I don't. Maybe Phil took a red eye, right? Maybe he snuck over there on the same plane Jim did. You know, maybe they took the same flight over there. But
was Jim even there?
No. I'm just saying maybe they used the same flight. Maybe they use that same red eye. But no, it's Phil's been working. We talked about what is his legacy going to be, and he's literally. It seems like he has a checklist, Pong, and he's going behind himself, saying, "There's all these things that I have yet to do. I am cleaning house, and I'm going to leave Xbox in the best possible position that has ever been in the history of this company."
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and this was, obviously held in Las Vegas. But the fact that Phil even got on a plane when he's got ABK going on and he's got a bunch of stuff going on right now, right? Getting ready for some upcoming for Gamescom and all that kind of stuff. The fact that he got on a plane and got down there to be on stage. I've been calling for Final Fantasy 14 to come over to Xbox. Obviously, Phil made the promise to everybody back in 2019, which everybody is well aware of. And it seemed when they made that promise, again, don't forget, I'm going to pump my brakes a little bit on this whole partnership, and we mended fences. Again, the new CEO gives me hope. Yeah. But again, there was at one point when we had Square Enix up on the Xbox stage promising a great relationship and promising games coming to Xbox, right? Including Final Fantasy 14. And that never came to fruition. We got some, don't get me wrong, we got Final Fantasy 15 and stuff, but then it seemed to go sideways. Whatever happened. Now, Jez, shout out to Jez Gordon, Windows Central. He's alluded on the Xbox 2 and other shows that he's had some information that there seemed to be some bad blood, that something happened there. He wasn't quite sure. He never really did a full report on it because he couldn't get confirmation. But whatever the case was, it was obvious, right? Whether it was Sony's money, whether it was their influence, whether it was Square Enix decision makers turning their back on Xbox, whatever it was, it obviously wasn't a good spot. And I think it's very interesting, PTK, that we had Phil on the couch during the Giant Bomb interview with him and Booty after the showcase. Shout out to Grubb and the crew over there, Giant Bomb. And they specifically asked him about the East and about what that was like growing the partnerships over there. And Phil jumped right in and said, it's work. That was his direct quote. It's work. And he kind of, talked about Capcom introducing a new game, obviously Path of the Goddess on their stage and how great that was. And obviously Atlas showing up a lot now on Xbox. Yeah. And then he specifically said, and, I turn to Square and go, come on, guys. And he goes, but that's another plane trip, right? I got to hop on the plane again, right? Is what he said.
Yeah.
So he was kind of forecasting this or giving us a little hint. He's done this before, right? When he said that the relationship with Activision was changing in light of all the problems they were having. Well, we didn't know how big.
A week later, yeah.
We didn't know how big that change was going to be.
We're kind of just, we're just kind of.
Yeah. We're reevaluating our relationship with Activision. Yeah, you are, Phil.
We've been in communication a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah.
You're dropping off 70 with about 9 other zeros behind it. So,
about that Fabergé egg in the briefcase.
Yeah. So I think it's great. Like I said, I was an absolute shock because I didn't know if this was going to happen anymore. I've said all along, every time we talked about Square, again, I've obviously lambasted Square for their decision making that they've done. But I said the one thing that's never made sense is Final Fantasy 14 not being on Xbox. Now there were some technical problems with how Xbox allows game updates and certification for those updates in the background, but that was all resolved. Yeah, that was all resolved years ago, right? They fixed that up after Phil made that promise. So I always said it didn't make any sense. Final Fantasy 14 has exploded over the past 3-4 years, to the point when, World of Warcraft was at its lowest and hemorrhaging players, everybody was going over to Final Fantasy 14. They ran out of server room. And it never made sense that you wouldn't take a game that popular worldwide, even on a platform that may not be the preferred platform where most of your players go, and start growing that audience. There's going to be people that hop into that, right?
So even with that being the case, Pong, Xbox is still far and away the place to put multiplayer games, regardless of how you feel about their first party output.
You got a good,
you got a good chance. It's still really the best place to put your game for a console standpoint.
For a console, exactly. And so, for MMOs and that kind of stuff, or multiplayer, regular multiplayer, it's a great spot to have your game in. But so that just never made sense. But the fact is, and obviously everybody confirmed it, Yoshi and the new CEO both talked about it on stage with Phil there. How about that wrestling introduction, by the way, for Phil? That was, that was amazing, man. Know, right? But they both mentioned that this was all due to Phil's hard work behind the scenes. Phil obviously never stopped. From that point forward, he made it his mission that he was going to keep this promise that Final Fantasy 14 was going to come no matter what. Yeah. And it's obvious that he's been having ongoing discussions. And a lot of people want to point to the new CEO as potentially a turning point. Obviously, this has probably been in the works for a little bit longer. But obviously, the new CEO, if that was internally, they were already prepping for that and kind of giving him the reins behind the scenes before he took the official spot. Maybe he had some more influence back there, with conversations with Phil. Maybe he was the final, kind of deciding force that said, no, let's get this done. Absolutely, let's do it. Because the way that he was talking on stage, it seems like he's come in with a fresh perspective for Square Enix and about where that company needs to go in 2023 and beyond. Something we talked about. The old way wasn't working for them. They were living in the past. It was like 1990s Square Enix, early 2000s Square Enix. Does
this confirm? Right? This confirms another. Just sorry to cut you off, Pong, but this confirms something for me. And you've mentioned this. I'm gonna give you all the credit. You and Pong, have mentioned this. You and Pong, you and Fuzz have mentioned this at different times. This confirms that the Japanese really do. They're kind of set in stone with the way they do things.
It's hard.
Until a regime change up top, we saw it in Nintendo. Fundamentally, things will change once you get that CEO, and it only happens at the very highest level of business in Japan. Clearly, because those smaller, lower level changes don't really seem to shake up anything. It's really when those big CEO level changes happen over there.
It seems to be a slower transition for them when things are changing, right? And we've seen companies like Capcom and Bandai Namco both figure it out, right? And start making better choices. And Square just seemed to never be able to pull out of that. And again, maybe it was partly because Sony kept dropping off the bag. I mean, again, they don't have anything outside of Final Fantasy 14 that makes them a ton of money. Again, without Final Fantasy 14, they would have been dead in the water a long time ago. They would have been bankrupt or sold. They would have been. They would have been. They are so lucky they had Final Fantasy 14. Anyways, I just think it's fantastic how happy Phil looked too. And again, I talked about this morning on Living Split Screen too. This is the part where whatever the youngins call it, capping for Phil, capping. And I cap for Phil at these points because, again, when I see Phil on stage, sure, he is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Yes, I know he does CEO speak all the time. He did a little bit up there when he was talking about Final Fantasy and the relationship with Square Enix. He's going to do that. He has to. That's his position of power. But what I'm going to say is his energy, when he walked out on that stage, that was gamer Phil up there. That was somebody excited for Final Fantasy 14 to be coming, sure, to his platform, right? It was a business deal. He got it done. He's a CEO, but that's gamer Phil up there. Somebody who is going to dive into Final Fantasy 14 when it shows up on Xbox. That's a guy who is just excited to get up there and announce that this was actually happening, not only for himself, but for all of his fans, his consumers, all the Xbox people out there that have been asking for this. He was excited to be up there with Yoshi, right? As somebody who appreciates and respects what Yoshi does. So that's when I just go, God, man, I love this guy as a CEO. I don't ever want to see him walk away. He just brings. That's what I loved about Layden, right? It's the same thing. Calmness. Layden was a fan. Yeah,
a consistent calmness that they bring to. They're running the ship. It doesn't matter what the storm looks like is going on around the ship. They're standing there at the wheel, calm, collected, making consistent. It doesn't feel like the right decisions all the time. They make the necessary choices. They don't always feel like the right ones in the moment, but they're necessary. So.
And he makes decisions as a gamer as well, because he knows he has a better idea of what it means and what these certain games mean to certain fan bases and what it means to bring it to Xbox. And so I think all of that is wrapped up into that emotion that he shows when he gets up there. And I absolutely love it. Again, I wouldn't replace him for anything. I think the dude gets it, and through all the troubled waters. And again, I've been critical of Phil. There's lots of things I have criticized him for. His loyalty, for one. I mean, I think that cost him when it came to Halo Infinite. I criticized him there. But at the end of the day, this man has turned around Xbox, and now PTK. It seems like, as we talked about, the ABK acquisition was a giant anchor that kind of slowed down the ship to a crawl.
You get credit for that too, Pong.
Right? It did. And here we are now. And what do we see happening? Things are coming out of the blue again. Things are rolling along. We're getting announcements again. We're getting games again. And all of a sudden it feels like right that Xbox right before that ABK acquisition was announced, where they were on an absolute roll. They are coming into Gamescom with Starfield launching less than a week after Gamescom, on an absolute tear right now. This was a surprise Friday. Of course, it was, Final Fantasy's Fan Fest, so obviously that's why it happened, but it's just crazy that it just came out of the blue. Not any smoke out there. There was an article, I think, earlier this year that said, we hear that there's still talks going on between Xbox and Square Enix about Final Fantasy 14, but there was nothing solid out there. Nobody had heard a whisper that this was actually going to go down. And here it comes. Perfect timing. On a Friday, Phil just shows up on stage in Las Vegas with Yoshi P and the new CEO of Square Enix. They all shake hands in one big three-handed shake, got laughs from the crowd, and talking about Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox next year. And not only that, all of them agreeing that this partnership goes deeper than just Final Fantasy 14, and we should expect some future games from Square Enix again. Again, I will not hold my breath on this because it is still Square, and there's still Sony looming out there. Sony could try to put a ring on this. We just don't know what's going to happen there. But the fact is right now, it looks like whatever break there was between Square and Xbox, whatever cracks there were in that relationships, Phil's hard work, the new CEO's different perspective and mindset seem to have mended that for the time being. And we are getting another game. And let me tell you, I'll end it here because I've been rambling, but I'm so excited for it because this is a big moment. I'm going to jump back into Final Fantasy 14 when it comes out next year on Xbox. I'm going to get into it. But all the people out there that are literally console warring over Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox, you all can F off, all right? This is a freaking MMO. The fact that you don't want more players coming into an MMO is the most ridiculous thing ever, and it shows what type of mentality you hold in life. Please, get out of here with that nonsense. Please, you do not have the best interest of this industry in any way, shape, or form, and you should not be calling yourself a gamer if you don't think that an MMO should have as many players from as many different walks of life, as many different platforms as possible. That makes it better for everybody at the end of the day. Right? That makes it better. What else did they announce at the same time at this Fan Fest? Oh, that's right. Another expansion to a 13 going on 14-year-old game.
Yep.
Why do you think they might be able to announce that expansion? Yes, it's kicking butt and they've got a lot of money, but they also know now they're going to get another influx of players from Xbox side of things. So again, the health of that game is dependent upon how many people they've got playing that game. Opening it up to another platform is nothing but a good thing. If you call yourself a Final Fantasy fan, if you call yourself a Yoshi fan, if you're a fan of Square Enix and you're complaining and going after Xbox fans for being excited that this is actually happening, again, check yourself out at the door, please, because you don't deserve to call yourself any of those things if you're going to complain about this. This is a big moment right here.
Facts. I love that you spoke to that too, because I saw that online and I thought it was weird. You highlighted the points, and before we get this over to you, Fuzz, I want to run something back here and throw it back to you, Pong. So you highlighted a couple quick points there, chat, because one of the big things for me was the fact that this is an MMO. This game is almost as old as my kids, right? And I hear people talking about, well, why does it need to go to Xbox? Well, because it's the type of game you don't want as many people playing this game as possible. You don't think 14 years is long enough? Like how long? I mean, like you know what I mean? How long do you think? Like you know what I mean? And it makes sense for the game to come to Xbox. There's absolutely no reason that this game shouldn't be on Xbox. You can't really make an argument that it shouldn't be. We've waited long enough. The fan base has been starving for a game like this. We don't get a whole lot of Final Fantasy on this console in general, so it's nice to see something like this happen. It is way long overdue, and I don't even want to hear anybody trying to make no comparison to any Bethesda stuff not coming to PlayStation or anything like that. This is not even the same situation, Pong. So I want to make sure we make that clear, Pong. So for the people in the back, can you make sure you make a distinction between what's actually going on here, because people seem to be getting confused, Pong. They think this is another Bethesda situation, and it's not.
It's not another Bethesda situation. And again, I've said it already, and I'll say it again for everybody here. I am happy that ESO stayed on everything. I am happy that Fallout 76 stayed on everything. That new Blizzard survival game, if that is an MMO that needs a player base, I hope it stays multi-plat. I hope they don't take it exclusive. I hope whatever ZeniMax Online is currently making, if it is another gigantic MMO, I hope it stays multi-plat as well. Again, when it comes to MMOs, there is zero reason to hope that it's exclusive. MMOs need player bases, period. Even more so than a multiplayer game needs a player base because of how they are set up from the get-go. The more players that are in those worlds playing, the better this experience is for everybody.
Yep.
Absolutely. And again, if you want these games to survive, then multi-plat for these big games is the way to go. That's just the facts. It doesn't matter if you think, Xbox players, there's gonna be like 10 of you guys that show up for Final Fantasy 14.
I saw that too, yeah.
Listen. First of all, you're lying to yourself. Second of all, it doesn't matter how big or how small it is. The fact that more players are jumping in there, which increases that player base, no matter what level it is, on top of having more people talking about their experiences in that game, which then in turn can influence more people to jump in and try that game. That is the way that MMOs work all the time. Yep. You want it as many places as possible. So again, knock it off with the nonsense. I'm tired of it, man.
100% agreed. So I'm glad we got that clear. I'm glad you cleared that up for the people in the back, because I think they were having an issue with some comprehension there. Yeah, this is something that, once again, Pong, we talked about this. What is Phil's legacy, right? What is all the things he done behind the scenes? Right. And you're right about it feels like that rock that is the ABK deal, that rock that's in the long hose is starting to loosen a bit, and things are moving along, and we're starting to see all of this other movement. And because like you said, we wonder what else was happening. Were they just literally sitting on their hands during this entire 18-20 month ordeal? No. We asked, are they just they're still, Phil still was taking flights, apparently. That passport
Especially
was still getting stamped.
Sarah Bond was over there a ton. I mean, again, they put in a lot of work over there. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was one of the things that this signified for me too, is that they weren't just sitting on their hands throughout this ABK deal, because these type of things don't happen in a week. These are long conversations over long periods of time that need to happen. There's certain dominoes that need to fall to make these things work. Like you said, maybe that was that process was sped up by the new CEO over there at Square, but I'll let Fuzz get into it and get his bars off here. But Fuzz, when you heard the news, we saw the tweet come through. It was random because it was Friday. We don't usually get big stuff. And this came through, and it's something we've been talking about, bro. So what do you think about, one, the new relationship and partnership, quote unquote, because we know we still got to see the yield. We still got to see the results. This has happened before. But what do you think about this new partnership, as well as kind of the future of Square and Xbox?
Well, it's a step in the right direction. I think the biggest thing is, sure, they've been on good terms in previous years, but I think given how there was just game after game that was, skipping the platform, I think this is showing that there's at least an olive branch out there, and that things moving forward hopefully will be improved. The relationship or the partnership they have as far as 14, like you said, it makes sense for an MMO to be multi-plat. It's funny, a lot of the people that used to say you should support the devs are the same ones that are complaining about a game being on multiple platforms, which would hopefully keep the game supported and viable as far as the player base. I mean, we saw a lot of people, I guess, leaving some Blizzard games prior when they first had all the controversy as far as their HR stuff, and a lot of people, kind of waned off a bit for like World of Warcraft and all that, and hopped over to Final Fantasy 14 to the point where it was crashing servers. Well, now that Blizzard, looks like they're on a path to kind of correct things, some of those people are going to probably go back to their favorite, World of Warcraft game, and you may see some people not necessarily abandon Final Fantasy 14, but you're going to see some movement, especially as more and more games keep on coming out. So having a new influx of players, like you said, is in the best interest for that game itself. So I that's one of the reasons why I kind of avoided social media, because it's like I don't feel like hearing knuckleheads talk about oh, this isn't fair. Like, first of all, it's not first party, and even if it was a first party, like, it's just one of those things where it's the type of game where having it on multiple platforms is in the best interest. Just plain and simple. Like, I don't understand why they didn't see things like, what was it, Babylon Fall? Like, sure, that was an exclusive and it wasn't fully an MMO, but it was one of those things where I don't even think it lasted a full year. Like, do we want? I mean, sure, Final Fantasy 14 has been ongoing for some time, but that's not always going to be the case at some point. Like, there are games that, eventually wane off a good bit, but having more players there is an awesome thing. And people that say otherwise,
it's not
they're
just
not
more
enjoying
players,
gaming
Buzz.
like
It's
they
new
should,
energy.
I guess.
It's new. This is an entire fan base that just didn't have that game available.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So it's not just this is opening the floodgates to an entire fan base that if you just play on Xbox, you've never touched this game.
Yeah,
you don't have the experience. So yeah,
and having that interest or having that access to that type of game, and hopefully Square holds up on their end of the deal as far as continuing to put titles on this platform. That's just going to make it for a better overall bottom line for Square. Like, it almost seemed like they were adverse to money unless it was coming directly from Sony, and yet they were having issues where their year-over-year money was not quite where they expected or didn't meet expectations, even after they offloaded their Western studios that they always used to say were not meeting expectations. So it's just funny to me that people are up in arms about this partnership when if it was any other I guess publisher, I guess people probably wouldn't care, but I'm trying to see it for like what the underlining approach might be, because remember we had talked about this before with Square being a big mobile presence as far as in the East. Not saying that this is hinting to a buyout or anything like that, but maybe the olive branch is, hey, work with us and we'll work with you to get you in our upcoming mobile store or something to that effect. And I think that's where Square will probably be able to flourish a lot easier, because having something where you're like a key publisher in that new mobile store, and giving access to games or a game library that a lot of people may not have had access to prior, I think will be beneficial on both sides, but more so for Square for their bottom line. So I hope this winds up being something similar to like with the Sega partnership, where you see more and more stuff coming to the platform, more and more things in Game Pass, and getting the fan base exposure or access to these games. And then unlike like with Octopath Traveler, where we got the first one and then the second one kind of skipped, hopefully we get the second one now, and things like that moving forward always are considered or at least put on the platform, so that way you can continue to grow that fan base within that platform for those games. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Xbox players don't really play those games. Well, how are they going to play those games if they're an Xbox player, if those games aren't readily available? So giving them the access, or at least having the access available for those games, we'll see how it pans out. But in the grand scheme of things, new platform, it'll be the new hotness on the platform. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be willing to try things out, or those that have been, itching to try those games out, but really don't feel like picking up a second console or
Yeah.
something along those lines, this is a perfect opportunity for them to finally get access to the games that, you know, they've had to hold off because that was skipping their platform. So it's good all around. Typically Fridays aren't the good news days, but this one definitely seems like a first
Definitely
Friday,
good,
you know, unveiling that's been a good news story for Xbox. So it's good to see.
Awesome. And it's funny because we're talking about this because on separate occasions we've talked about freaking Phil, and just, you know, did he I mean, we know he went over there and spoke with Sega, and you know, they've always had a great relationship anyway. I mean, I wonder if it was around the same time. I wonder if he figured, you know, I might as well stop by Square, I'm in town anyway, right? Like, kind of thing. Because it's the timing of all of this, like you said, you know, like the ABK deal was wrapping up, you know, all these little things are starting to happen around us, and you know, Xbox we're starting to reveal that no, we weren't just sitting on our hands, we were still talking to other people. And quick question to you two both, in the chat as well too. Do you think that because of this ABK deal and the way it's going down, that third party publishers are going to do business with Xbox differently because of this? Like, because of the whole ABK deal, do you think that maybe lended Xbox a little bit of extra like cachet when it comes to these arguments, Pong Fuzz? Like when they go in there and, you know, there's not arguments, when they go in there and maybe discuss, you know, like deals and business, and you think it has any influence on any of that stuff, or no?
No, I think overall, Xbox is gaining back influence again, like the influence that they had during the 360 generation, that was lost during the Xbox One generation. I think that's kind of what's happening in a different way, because obviously they're using Game Pass and stuff like that. I think that everybody understands that Xbox is making obviously giant moves in this industry, and it's like for real. Like, Xbox with Microsoft behind them is a serious force, and I think that maybe some companies don't want to be on the outside looking in. If they do wind up hitting their goals, right, and Game Pass all of a sudden hits, you know, 100 million subscribers, right? You're gonna want to be in a good position, right? You're gonna want to say you were there, like, before it all happened, right? Like, hey, Phil, you know, or whoever's in charge at the time, hey, you know, we cut some deals back in the day for you guys, you know. It was like, you don't want to be the one that spurned Xbox, like, if they hit their marks, right? You don't want to be the ones going, yeah, we should have probably made that deal. Like, we should have probably gave you a couple games, right? So, yeah, so I think there is some of that now. And obviously, again, I think just from a pure business standpoint, if I'm a business dude, no matter where I am in the world, if I'm in video games, I'm looking over at Microsoft and knowing that the bank is open, right? And if there's a deal to be cut, Xbox is going to have some money to give, right? If they want my game, or if they want to do business with us, there's money to be found there, right?
Is it just the money though, or is it like the energy around Xbox too?
I think it's a little bit of both, but let's be real.
Yeah,
most of this stuff is business. Most of the CEOs of these companies aren't Phil, like gamers, right? They're more like Jim Ryan's, right? So they're not really all about, oh, hey, Phil's got some great energy, we want to go do some business with him, right? Like, that's not really, I don't think that's what's happened, PTK, as much as I like to think that it does. That's just me. Maybe indies, maybe like indie companies and stuff, like, you know, maybe that, but no, big companies, they're just like, guys coming in with some big cash, all right, let's go get a piece. Piece. That's where
yeah, it definitely makes better for like a bargaining chip, because now that we see that Xbox, you know, not that they weren't serious prior, but now you can literally see how serious they are about the industry with the Microsoft backing. It makes it easier to go back to Sony and be like, well, we think if you want exclusivity, that deal is going to cost you this much more than it did before. You know, yesterday's price is not today's price, kind of thing. So it also helps with you know, future negotiations, you know, going down the road, or you can play both sides. Like, Square has been famous in the past for playing both sides, where, you know, give exclusivity to one for a little bit and then give this other game exclusivity to the other one, and then have it where, you know, maybe it's a time thing or something to that effect, and collect a bag from both parties. So
exactly,
the ABK thing definitely helps. I think more so it brings attention to show that Microsoft and Xbox are ready to play. And if that means more money in your pocket or some palms greased or, some pocket stuff type of thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure people recognize, what's happening with Microsoft and their bank account right now.
And I want to make sure we want to make a couple of things clear. And I want to get to this point too, because Decado made a great point. I'm going to read it here on the screen. He said, yes, it took Sarah Bond and Phil refusing to go away and treat Japan developers with respect, and MS opening the wallet to make sure Japan realized Xbox isn't an afterthought of MS anymore. Right. That is the perfect summary of how I looked at this when I saw this article, the tweet come across the feed, and I saw everything going on. That's exactly what I thought. Phil said it a long time ago. I remember, Pong. He said, he said he took them not being in Japan personally. He said, I am not leaving Japan. Like he's the whole company. He's like, no, I'm not leaving Japan. Like I know there's a lot of you guys out there want us to kind of let this fish go, so to speak, but I'm refusing to do so. And this is once again another feather in the cap. They are not going to give up on Japan. They're going to make a mark. Phil's going to leave a mark over there one way or another, and this just is another small little notch on the belt, Paul.
Listen, it's a great point because there was strides made during the 360 era, right? There was great strides made to make that happen and make the East a priority again. And then it all disappeared under Donnie D and what happened during the Xbox One generation, right? And they really didn't have a chance to recover. And I think that any company, doesn't matter where they are or who they are, right? If you're doing business with somebody, you want to know that they're serious, right? And that they're not just giving you lip service all the time. And I think that a lot of the credit, we've done this a ton on this show, and I've done it on my other shows. The credit goes to Phil and Sarah Bond and that team because they have stuck to the East. And I think that after a while, I think some of these companies like Capcom, Bandai Namco, Sega, I mean, Sega, they've already, they're not going anywhere, right? And they keep coming back, even though we've rebuffed them, or maybe they didn't get the deal from us that they wanted, right? Phil and Sarah still keep coming back and talking to us. Phil and Sarah keep coming back with their team and saying, hey, we want to do business with you. We'd like to get this game on Game Pass, or we just want this game to come to Xbox. What's it going to take? They keep coming back time and time again. I think eventually the respect has to be there for that effort. And I think that maybe that's exactly what's happened here. It's just pure hard work, right? It's just, that's what this has been. Like Phil said, that's what I said in my, when I was talking about this, when the Giant Bomb interview, and his exact words were, it's work, when asked about trying to get in with the Eastern developers. And I think maybe it's just that 100% effort from that entire team that finally got the attention of a lot of these companies in the East, where they finally said, okay, they're not leaving. This isn't another Xbox One generation. This is more in line with what we used to hear from the Xbox 360 people when they were in charge. Let's think about this, because they're obviously making moves, and then they see something like ABK, then they see the dollars, they see Game Pass going up, they see, maybe some of their, the Capcoms and the Bandai Namcos have success in Game Pass for their games that they put in there. All of that kind of just rolls in, and all of a sudden they sit up and take notice. They take those meetings more serious, and they get down to real discussions that are beneficial for both parties, and they say, let's get some deals done. And I think that that's what's happening right now. I think everybody knows that Xbox, unless they hit it out of the park with the mobile side of things over there in the East, let's be real, console wise, they will probably never be able to top PlayStation or Nintendo. It's just not going to happen. But I think that the Japanese developers are definitely seeing that, okay, well, Xbox isn't doing that old system. They're not into that old way anymore. They're going to be making waves in other markets like mobile, which is where a lot of those companies want to be, which is a lot of where those companies are already over in the East. And they're like, well, maybe this could be very beneficial because Microsoft and Xbox are coming. And just because they're Microsoft and Xbox, if they go mobile and they hit it off, they hit it out of the park with their mobile division and their gaming and their apps and all that kind of stuff. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The people in the East aren't going to care that it's an American company. They're going to look at that store and say, oh my God, Call of Duty. Oh my God, all these other games are in this store. I'm playing on Xbox through that service, and we want to be a part of that service in the future. I think there's certainly some of that there.
Definitely, man. And shout out to everybody watching live, man. That was a great opening topic. I know that one was a little bit long, but it was such a big, huge thing, Pong, because we've talked about this for so long, brother. And this is just a culmination of everything that Phil's been doing. And it's just another rung on the ladder. This is not the final stage of anything at all. There's still a long way to go, a lot of work to do. And it's one thing that I want Xbox fans to understand, PlayStation players understand, not that you guys care, but there's a long way to go. This is a lot of work, and Phil is not giving up on the East at all. This is a sign that he's still over there doing work, and this is something that they want to get done for the ecosystem because it's important. We need those kind of games. There's so much talent over there. It's like you said, it's still an infant market for Xbox after 20 plus years. It's still a market, a brand new market that they've been trying to crack for the last 20 plus years. So I love to see the consistency. I love to see the work. And that's the big thing that I got out of this, Pong, was that it's just, they're not going to give up. And I love that. I love that. Even despite the sales, despite all of the pushback from Japanese, the business side of things, despite the pushback from consumers, they still see it as an opportunity. And that's super, super huge to me because like you said, that was something that we didn't get with the last regime. Before they put Phil in position, Donnie D was not flying over to Japan. Making a whole lot of
Donnie D didn't care about.
He didn't care about the Japanese market at all. That's exactly why you didn't see anything. You didn't see a whole lot going on around the time he was there. But either or.
And also just real quick too. I know we've beleaguered this point, but whatever. It is a big topic. They're not dumb over there in the East by any stretch of the imagination, and they understand that Microsoft and Xbox have their eyes that way. And if they do pull off a big acquisition like a Sega over there, that's another. That's they're looking at that potential and that possibility. It's a very real possibility that Microsoft and Xbox move that way in a big way. And I think that if the people over there, the higher ups, are already kind of forecasting that out and saying, okay, well, if they're going to, if they're going to make a key acquisition, if they're going to come and be strategic and they're going to come in our backyard, then let's be friends with the neighbors, like the future neighbors, right? Let's get to know them. Let's see how they do business. They're kind of, leading a new way forward in 2023 in this digital age. So let's learn from them. We've already know that Bandai Namco has learned from them. We already know the partnership with Sega to help them with their server side and their digital partnership. So it's been right. So they see Microsoft and Xbox moving into that space and extending a hand and saying, hey, we're not here to be enemies. We're here to grow this industry as a whole. So let's all try to do this together. And I think that eventually, like I said, if you hear it enough times and you start seeing the moves, then I think you got to start believing what your eyes are telling you and what your ears are hearing. And I think that's kind of what's happening. We're kind of seeing that evolution right now go on over there.
Yeah. And like you said, I think the big thing before we wrap this up and move on is the consistency from Phil. I think it's just like you said, Pong. I really think that it's just them going over there, consistently showing face, saying, hey, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. I know this is you guys didn't embrace us right away. We understand this is going to be a long process. We're still here. The door is still open. Keeping those open lines of communications, even when it doesn't seem like, these Japanese developers want to have, much of a conversation. I love that. So kudos. And like you said, let's make sure we give the proper recognition to Phil, to Sarah, the entire team they've put together over there to continue to push in this region, because we don't want, I know any of us here on this podcast, we don't want them to give up on Japan. I don't want them to give up on Japan, so I don't think any of us want to see that. So,
and with our guests just walking in here, one last thing too. Again, Mav and I will continue to pound the table, beat the drum. Phil, you're listening. I know you are. I know you tune in the shop every Saturday night as we're playing games. Listen, Phil. Now that you got an in at Square Enix, Final Fantasy Tactics, when they remake that game, has to come to Xbox. Please, that has to be your number one priority right now.
Awesome. So now that Mav is in here, I know I'm taking two topics here, but there's something else I want to talk about on the other end of the spectrum, and you guys can take over Pong and Fudd for the rest of the show.
Just keep going. You're on a roll.
No. So I want to talk. It's perfect segue because we just got done talking about Square. There's another Japanese company that is doing extremely well and they're having a banner year. I want to talk about a little bit about Capcom's resurgence in 2023 because they were in Square's position not that long ago. People forget because they've been doing so well lately, Pong, that for a long time Capcom was this close to being sold off.
Yeah,
like
to be an
Capcom
Xbox.
was struggling.
Yeah.
They were. Oh yeah. We'll get into that too, right? We know that at one point that was a thing.
Can you imagine what that would have looked like?
Oh my god, bro!
That IP underneath Xbox, right?
I've never wanted a company to fail so bad. I mean, listen. I always want these.
Don't say the quiet part out loud, PTK. Do not say.
I'm so honest and transparent. I don't care if the fanboys take that and run with it. I don't give a shit. Like. It's just one of them things, but just to get back on track here, because I want to let Mav get in on this, but I just want to talk about Capcom's resurgence in 2023 because it has been really them and EA, but this really isn't about EA, but just they've been on this run, but people don't. You got to really stop and really look at what Capcom's been able to do the last 2 to 3 years. They've been on an insane run, and that wasn't where they were going before the last 2 or 3 years. And I want to start with you, Mav, just on what have you seen from Capcom that's different? You know what I mean? Like the strategy, the things that they've done. I've just been really excited with where Capcom's at now.
Yeah, first off, thanks for sending me the link. I just got home.
Yeah, you're good, bro.
So it was great timing. And I didn't have a chance to comment when y'all were talking about this, but I was listening in the car. And yes, the Barbarian sucks. I hate it,
man. Look, man. I tried, man. I tried, bro. Like I was sitting here, I'm like, okay, I'm at 25, 26. I'm like, okay, this is right around the time where the rogue started to get good. I haven't hit that point yet.
It's most boring class
that's
ever been created in any RPG ever.
I'm sorry.
It's horrible. Anyway, besides that, back onto Capcom. Yeah, dude, it's been interesting seeing their kind of resurgence, right? Like, I feel like they can be an example to other publishers that are struggling right now. Them, Bandai Namco.
Bandai.
Yeah, if these publishers like Square Enix, I'm hoping for good things from the new CEO because now all of a sudden we get this attention to Xbox, whatever, and maybe he likes money more than the past CEO and doesn't feel like excluding entire platforms and ecosystems from their business model. So but just the fact of the matter of at the end of the day, what matters is releasing good games. And that's what Capcom got back to, right? They got in a tricky situation. They started struggling. They kind of were rushing some things out. They had some downs. Street Fighter V wasn't everything that a lot of fighting game fans wanted. They had some misses with some of their other IPs. Then they got back to okay, well, let's just go back to square zero and figure out what matters. And they started doing the really good Resident Evil remakes. Then they went with the high quality Resident Evil 7. The Resident Evil 8 is fantastic. They have new IPs coming out left and right. Monster Hunter, they've really nailed that with Monster Hunter World and then Monster Hunter Rise as well. So and now Street Fighter 6 is taken off for them, and they really did a great job bringing that franchise back.
Well.
So all these different scenarios played out, and yeah, they have some live servicey things. Like Monster Hunter is very live servicey, and then you also have Exo Primal, which is a new experiment that they have. But they're not just relying on fitting everything into one model, right? They're saying, okay, we're gonna have this, we're gonna have that, we're gonna do these games, we're gonna do these remakes, we're gonna have new IP, we're gonna have new games in these popular franchises, and we're going to focus on making quality. And they got an amazing engine behind it all as well that's powering all of this resurgence. So they just got back down to what matters most. And I hope that publishers that are in the same position that Capcom had found themselves in before, like a Ubisoft and like a Square, right? That are kind of struggling and have kind of making a lot of random decisions that seem like they don't make a lot of sense. Just take a look at a Capcom and then another example like a Bandai Namco, what they've been doing as well, and say, well, I guess if we make good games, regardless if they're single player, multiplayer, whatever kind of game they are, they're going to be fantastic and sell really well. And that's what they should do. So, it's great to see Capcom in this position. I'm kind of with you though, PTK. Like, it'd have been amazing to see what
Oh
Xbox would have done
man,
with those
dude,
IPs,
that was
right? But
crazy. Yeah,
their value is skyrocketing. I think it
yeah,
was like double or something like what it was
definitely.
before. So, but kudos to them. And I didn't get a chance to talk about the Square stuff really as well. But the Final Fantasy 14 thing is a big deal. There's a lot of players that have been excluded from that
Yeah,
from playing that game, and it just doesn't make any sense, especially on a game like a Final Fantasy 14 that's just meant to bring people in and be able to spend money, and also you're alienating fans and potential future fans of a franchise by making your brand irrelevant to an entire ecosystem over a long period of time, which is never a good business decision, especially from a multi-plat publisher like that
on
may have
top of there's
been. So
legitimately no reason not to put it on Xbox. There's not a single reason
no,
not to bring it to
and
Xbox.
that goes, I think, for Final Fantasy 16. It goes for Final Fantasy 7 remakes, part 1 and 2. Yeah, you take the easy money up front, but what is that doing to your business in the long run? What is that doing to the power of what you had with Final Fantasy before? Like, is it the same as it was? I mean, you remember PTK and like Pong, especially here too. Like back in the day, and the PS1 and PS2 era, like Final Fantasy
Huge, huge.
was massive.
Yeah,
It was like one of the biggest games to come out all the time, and it took a long time for them to come out. But when they did, it was like a moment in gaming, right? If everybody was hyped for it, everybody was excited for it, and now it's like you do these exclusivity
feels
deals, and
like a Far Cry.
yeah, it's not
Or
the
something
same.
like.
And
Yeah,
so if they really treated these IPs and properties with the respect they deserve and try and get them in front of as many people as possible, that's going to be better for the brand in the long run, regardless of if you take the easy money up front. And I'm thinking maybe with this future with Square is they see the Game Pass money or the marketing deals with Xbox that don't require exclusivity, or they don't have as much exclusivity agreements as another option. So we'll see what happens, man. But Capcom, kudos. Make great games. Good things happen.
generally that's generally the rule of thumb. But it's just good to see Capcom back in a real space. And I know you pointed out one of the things that I definitely was going to bring up, Mav, and I wanted to highlight something that I think the single biggest reason why Capcom is thriving right now, and the reason it's the exact opposite of the reason why Square isn't, and that's creativity. You would never get
Yeah.
an Exo Primal from Square. You would never see
You
that
get
kind
a
of
Foam
game.
Stars.
Yeah, you get a phone, right? Like
We got Splatoon at home.
to be fair, yes,
Platoon with bubbles.
it's not quite the same thing, but yeah, you'll never get an Exo Prime. You'll never get stuff like that. And on top of, like you said, they haven't treated their bread and butter with the respect that it deserves. You've literally left Final Fantasy 14 off an entire ecosystem just cause. Like, there's absolutely no reason.
And that's been their biggest moneymaker for years.
Exactly.
And it could have been making that much more, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? If they had just think about this. We talk about the relevance of the brand and stuff. If 14 had been on Xbox for all of these years, right? Guess what? There would be more excitement and more people even asking for Final Fantasy 16 and all these other games coming to Xbox.
Because it's
now,
been the most popular Final Fantasy for the last decade. And it's not even close. So
there's a narrative that like Xbox fans don't like Japanese games or don't like JRPGs. Well, you haven't been fostering that type of game to have these kind of fans grow within the ecosystem of, like, you're just alienating them. Of course they don't care as much, because guess what? They have been absent for a long time. So the diehard JRPG fans have been buying PlayStations instead, because that's where they had to go. Yep. And then the new opportunities you had for Xbox gamers that may have just tried it or decided, hey, this hype train, I'm getting FOMO. I'm going to dive into this game because other people are talking about it and loving it. You've never given those players an opportunity to even enjoy the brand. So, Final Fantasy 15 was semi-successful on Xbox, right? Like, I didn't hear them crying about Final Fantasy 15 sales on Xbox. Like, besides that, we don't really Xbox fans get the random things that is like the lesser tier stuff from Square, and it feels like pity games almost. And it's I'm hoping this makes a change for them.
And it's crazy to see the companies that are thriving, the companies that need. So you name, and I'm gonna throw this over to you, Pong. Next, you name Bandai, you name Capcom, you name Sega. These are the three companies in Japan that are thriving. These are also the same three companies that have kept good relationships with Xbox. So that's not a coincidence that they're still thriving. Now, I'll give them all the credit on their own that they're still doing as well as they are, but it's not a coincidence. These are the companies that have kept good relationships with every single one of the big three. They haven't did the stuff Square's been doing. So, Capcom, like I said, they've done their thing, and they've shown that, hey, they're where they need to be at just by making phenomenal games. And that's the most obvious solution to the problem. But Pong, I'm gonna throw this over to you too, bro. Capcom's Resurgence, man, in 2023, it has been a sight to behold, and I love it. It's been something that we've talked about. Street Fighter 6, the remakes, and everything they've been doing seem to just be hitting homer after homer, and you're not seeing them tweeting out that their games aren't doing well. Matter of fact, they just had their fiscal, they just dropped their fiscal, and everything's way up. They dropped some sales numbers for a lot of their games, and a lot of their games are sold more than I actually would have thought. So where you at on this Resurgence from Capcom?
Capcom learned their lessons, and they took those lessons to heart. Again, everything that you and Mav just both said is extremely true. I'll start here and then I'll add something. They learned their lessons, which it seemed like, again, when we look over at Square, they didn't learn their lessons. If Square had treated Final Fantasy as a franchise like Capcom did with Resident Evil, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. Capcom didn't look over at Xbox and say, oh, it's not worth putting Resident Evil's back over there again, right? It's a smaller player base. Most of our people play on PlayStation. That's where we started on Resident Evil, right? All that kind of stuff. They didn't take that road. They took the road to say, no, we're going to continue to release all these games. And when they started remastering these games, remaking these games, they never once tried to exclude Xbox out of the conversation. And what has it done? Now you see Capcom's success everywhere, not on just one platform. Not just on two platforms, but everywhere, on PC, on Xbox, on PlayStation, even on over Nintendo. And that's what you have to do to cultivate the fan base. And that's what Capcom has done. Their last big mistake, and it was a fatal mistake because due to necessity, kind of the same thing that we've seen Square do, was putting Street Fighter V exclusive to PlayStation and excluding Xbox. And what did it do? It shrank the fan base of Street Fighter. It brought down the popularity of Street Fighter. And lo and behold, Ed Boon and his team over there at NetherRealm are right there, Johnny on the spot, with freaking amazing franchise in Mortal Kombat, and just explodes all over the place, right? And goes, on to sell 20 million copies, right? Because they put it everywhere. And I think that Capcom, again, it was due to necessity. They obviously needed the bag at the time. They obviously took that bag and they turned it around by reinvesting that money into Resident Evil remakes. But again, they didn't exclude any platforms with Resident Evil because they knew that franchise was big enough in a name to be everywhere. Square should have done that same thing with Final Fantasy. So I think that's one big thing. Capcom has learned their lessons through the years and aren't repeating mistakes. Yeah. They are actually making better decisions now. The other thing I'll add is to everything that you and Mav said about Capcom, where they're currently at. The thing that I keep coming back to that I love where Capcom is, yes, it's amazing to have Capcom back on top again. It's amazing what they're doing with their established franchises, but they're not resting on their laurels. We are seeing Capcom of old again, where they're going out and trying new things, new games. They're not just saying, let's be safe. Okay, we were really bad off at one point. We were to the point of almost selling to Xbox, right? We were really bad off. We fought our way back here. We are now at the top, or one of the top Eastern developers again. Let's just keep continuing to be safe. Let's continue to pump out Resident Evils. Let's continue to pump out Street Fighters. Let's continue to pump out Monster Hunters. That would be the safe bet. But instead, what are they doing? They're coming up with games like Exo Primal. They're coming out with things like Path of the Goddess.
Yep.
Right? Pragmata.
Yep.
Right? They're doing things outside the box, and that's what the old Capcom did during the 360 era when they were on top of their game. That's when we got our Lost Planets out of the nowhere. That's when we got our Power Stone games on Dreamcast, right? That's when they were peak Capcom before the fall. And they're not forgetting that either. And so again, to see Capcom going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, let's go try some new stuff. Let's try things, and let's go ahead and use the tools that are available to us in 2023, like Game Pass, to push a new IP like Exo Primal. Let's partner up with Xbox and get on their showcase, to get on their stage to show off Path of the Goddess for the first time. They are, again, looking at what has happened to them, where they've been, what they came from, to saying, okay, what is it going to take to stay on top this time? We're not going to have another fall again. And again, I just love to see Capcom in this spot. There's such a huge piece of this gaming industry and the history. Definitely. And again, now we hear talk internally. They're talking about how they're going to bring back Mega Man after all these years. Like, that excites me, right? That gets my juices flowing, because that's exactly what I want to see from a lot of these publishers and a lot of these developers, even Xbox, sitting on a lot of old IP, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're sitting on a lot of old IP. And it's just like, when you get to that success point, whatever that success point is internally for you, don't rest. Don't think that you can just play it safe. Start looking elsewhere. Start thinking outside the box again and doing new stuff. And, I've seen signs of that, obviously, from Xbox. We're getting a lot of new IP out of Xbox, too. But I want to see that expand out, and Capcom's doing it in a great way. So hats off to Capcom. They figured it out. They're here to stay. They ain't going nowhere now. And it's great to have them at this point during this generation, specifically during the golden age, because they are adding to what we are saying already, like this year with Resident Evil 4 Remake, adding to what is going to be a GOAT year and potentially a GOAT generation as we go through the years here. So,
definitely. I 100% agree. And shout out to somebody in the chat that just mentioned Dead Rising. I'd love to see another Dead Rising. The last one was
there's smoke. There's smoke.
There is smoke. The last one, DR3, was exclusive to Xbox at the beginning of that 360, at the beginning of the Xbox One generation. It was a launch game. If you guys don't remember in chat, but I know you guys do, Pong. But yes, I'd love to see, like you said, a lot of those old IPs come back. And one thing you mentioned too, Pong, is that they just dared to make games, right? Like a lot of these companies, for whatever reason, they get to a point to where you start to see systematically, and like they fundamentally start to like pay attention to the type of games that are being made, and they just start to make games based on the wave.
Ubisoft,
you know what I mean? They get caught up in the wave.
They start chasing,
right?
Like, they start chasing trends,
exactly,
right? Instead of making trends, and that's a great point, PTK, because the Mavs point again, they concentrate on making good games first. Even Exo Primal is kind of their first foray really. I mean, Monster Hunter World was a little bit, but let's say Exo Primal is kind of their first real games as a service type game. Out the gate, the way it's set up, and it's not egregious.
It's good.
But it's not
really
even the monetization is not egregious either. They're not coming in like, hey, you need to spend $20 to get a skin, right? Like, hey, that's what we want out of you.
They
you
also
can earn
didn't
most
have
of the skins. Yeah,
crazy expectations.
Correct.
That's true.
Correct.
That's
exactly.
true, to be fair,
They know, right? That's what I'm saying, Mav. Like, Capcom is leaning on their experience. They're not reinventing the wheel. They're just doing what they know how to do and saying, hey, we can do this stuff. We can even go a little different directions here, but we're going to do what we know how to do best, which is make a fun game first for our customers. And then we'll try these other adding in monetization, adding games as a service style stuff to it. But first things first, we want to give them something cool. And I think that's what Capcom's doing better than most.
Exactly.
I find it interesting too that all of these companies seem to like Capcom, especially like I'm not saying there's like a direct correlation to this, but their relationships with Xbox have been stronger lately,
Yep,
and
that's what I pointed out.
it's also been
Yeah.
coinciding along this strength of their brands getting better. Like Capcom had Exo Primal launch day and date into Game Pass. Also, they had Path of the Goddess coming day and date into Game Pass as well,
Mhm.
which is another brand new IP, right? And maybe they're using Game Pass as a way to kind of experiment
Like a
more
testing
with some
ground,
of
huh?
those games. Yeah, possibly, but even that, now Street Fighter 6 is, on Xbox where Street Fighter 5 wasn't. You have Monster Hunter deal that they did, bringing that to Game Pass, Monster Hunter Rise,
Mhm.
as well. So all of these companies have like said, okay, well, this there is a opportunity here where they had kind of taken a step back last generation, and Capcom had a good relationship before with Xbox. I mean, they did Lost Planet, they did Dead Rising, and all these different games with Xbox, but they kind of got away from that, and I feel like that's getting stronger. And not to mention, I think like Bandai Namco's learned some things because a lot of their published games that they had with the From Soft games, they some of those were exclusives, right? And the multi-plat games are the ones that have been the most successful, right? So especially Elden Ring.
Yeah,
And
Elden Ring blew the
like
doors off.
oh yeah, I mean, going from there, you can't go back now.
Yeah.
Like like, I don't they're not gonna go and say, "Well, we're gonna make, this other game with FromSoft, and they're gonna make it exclusive for PlayStation." I don't see that happening, so, it's just interesting to see kind of it all coinciding with this generation and strengthening those relationships, and that goes
Yeah.
for Sega too.
Definitely, definitely. This it's key that we get all of those big publishers, those big Japanese publishers, firing off, firing on the same cylinders. It's I'd like to see all of them doing well all at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's kind of nice that we got 3 of the 4
No,
there.
no, you said you wanted them to
Um,
fail.
Well, I mean, this was hey, that was hey, I was just I was a little excited when I said that. Is that on the record? Is that official?
Yeah,
Is that,
that's on the record.
no, that can't be. Can we get that scrubbed? Is it?
Yeah,
is
well,
that
you're
what
gonna have to go
we
back
get?
and edit this
Oh
afterwards.
shit. Okay, well, we're gonna have to scrub that off the record. I think that wasn't supposed to be public. Them leaked emails, man. What's going on? I got too excited. They can't put me on the stand. I tell everything. No, but yeah, but it's just great to see Capcom be in this position. And like you said, they're one of the publishers that has a great relationship with Xbox, and it's just really really cool to see. And I wanna throw something at you, Fuzz, before you get
Mhm.
started here too. Mav mentioned something just regarding like their relationship in Game Pass being kind of a testing ground. I think that's a kind of a interesting concept for these Japanese publishers that aren't necessarily all the way on board with Xbox, but
Mhm.
now they've loosened up to the idea of putting their games in Game Pass, even brand new games like Exo Primal that otherwise probably would have been tough to get off at $60 just on its own by itself. A game like Path of the Goddess, so we don't know what kind of game it is yet, but it's obviously coming to Game Pass day one. So there's already this interest because it's just coming to Game Pass. It's built-in interest, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Plus just the resurgence of Capcom.
Well, the big thing is we already know that there's 30 million subscribers for Game Pass at this point. So, and the way Game Pass is structured, any new game that comes in there gets a real prominent spot when you launch the app or when you get onto your Xbox and things. So, it's almost like you don't even have to worry about the marketing aspect of it, whether there's a marketing deal in the works or whether there's their own marketing that they have to allocate for the game itself. Xbox's Game Pass will kind of do that for you for the most part by just being in that service. So not only getting money either up front or per engagement or something to that effect, because each contract is different, but the big thing is you get the exposure for some of these new IPs like Path of the Goddess being a new IP, Exo Primal being a new IP. There's going to be a prominent spot where anybody that's familiar with that service or that app is going to see that game without them having to spend millions, tens of millions of dollars in advertising just because of the placement of how the app is structured. So there's that big step where they're kind of playing this or using Game Pass as a marketing tool to some extent. Like we've seen, like from a smart standpoint with Square, they did that with Outriders, but I don't know what fell apart as far as the money behind the scenes between them and People Can Fly. But in the grand scheme of things, a lot of them are seeing that new IPs where there's always this risk of it not doing so well and having to spend a lot of money to get the word out, or getting it into the buzz and stuff as far as what gamers are talking about. But when things go in Game Pass day and date, not only are people playing the game and it's exposed to 30 million players, but then it starts trending on social media. It becomes a topic because of like the gaming news or gaming media in general will talk about it being in Game Pass and so forth. So it's this advertising or marketing aspect that they're learning from. But just overall, Capcom has been probably one of the smarter publishers in knowing when making a deal doesn't go as planned to not go down that same path. Like Square's kind of, spite its face, shaved its nose off several times by just constantly, excluding the platform where there might be potential customers there. I mean, you're never going to make money on potential customers if you don't have the product available for them to play. So with Capcom having to get the financing from, PlayStation for Street Fighter V, they had it on PC, they had it on PlayStation, and I think eventually it sold 6 million copies, but that sold might not be actual dollars, because remember they gave it away as a PS Plus towards the later half of it. And then with that game, it was like, I want to say the first year or so, it was barely hitting 1 million copies. So it took it adding a lot more content to get that thing off the ground. But yet here you have 6 where it's just about at 2 million within like a 2-month period, or within a 1-month period, I should say, of when the game released. It's already, pretty much a third of the way there within the first month. Being on multiple platforms. So they've kind of learned sometimes taking the bag up front to finance the deal is not always the best way to go. So moving forward, putting it on multiple platforms, trying things out on Game Pass, things that they may not be as comfortable with as far as the marketing aspect, holding that olive branch out for Xbox in that regard for Game Pass makes the most sense for them. And, it works equally well for Xbox in general, because now their customers will have this new day and date game. They don't have to worry about being on the fence. If they want to buy it, they can try it first. And if they enjoy it, they can buy it at a discount shortly after. So it's a win-win. But Capcom in general has just been doing smarter things. They've also been doing, or at least it seems like they're one of the few developers that seems to use the tools as far as for the series consoles. And that was even the case with the One X, where the actual best place or the better resolution or better frame rate version was on Xbox. And it seemed like they're all about, well, if the hardware is more capable, we're going to put the extra dev time into getting all that we can out of that. So that's another thing I like about Capcom as far as them working with Xbox. But it kind of started with Monster Hunter Rise, or not Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter World coming to Game Pass, and actually just coming to Xbox in general was like that big olive branch. Sure, they had the Dead Rising deal, which, over the years, I guess because of timing and whatnot, 4 just wasn't quite where it was or where it needed to be as far as sales. It was kind of the same thing with 2. 1 was like the best one, and that one was only on Xbox. 2 was multiplat. 3 was exclusive for the Xbox One generation, which was probably one of their best ones. And then 4 eventually became multiplat, but it was like a timed exclusive on Xbox. Yeah. And they just kind of, I don't know if they ran out of ideas, but it's kind of good to sometimes shelve a IP if it's not quite hitting, and then reinventing themselves kind of with the Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil 7 was going back to the basics kind of thing, and it wowed people then. And then the same thing following up with Resident Evil 8, and then doing the remakes. They've actually showed or set the bar for making remakes. And, luckily, EA took that, not really to heart, but they've taken notice when they did the whole Dead Space remake. So there's now a standard, thanks to Capcom, on how you go about doing a remake, making sure you update the controls, update the visuals, you may adjust the story a bit because I think they did that for 3, but overall they've been knocking it out of the park, kind of giving customers what they want, although they haven't done the Code Veronica thing yet or a Dino Crisis yet. But I guess Exoprimal is kind of like that testing ground. So depending on how well that does, maybe we do see a Dino Crisis later type of thing. But I don't know. It's great to see them doing well. It's great to see that they've been working well with Xbox, and like you guys mentioned earlier, those publishers that seem to continue to have a strong relationship with Xbox seem to do better. I mean, it always makes sense from a business standpoint. If there are some customers, even if it's not a large number of customers, but if there are enough customers over there that are requesting your product, put it in front of them and let the numbers work themselves out. And you can't make that extra money if you don't have it readily available for that customer base. So Capcom has learned over the years, Xbox is a platform that they should definitely continue to support. And I'm so glad that they do. And, they reap the benefits from it with a, better year over year earnings. So, what more can be said?
Awesome. So great topic, man. Definitely had to get into that before I, brought you guys to the table. But yeah, it's just awesome to see Capcom come back and just be in a really, really good space. It's actually awesome to see all these companies. It's really good to see EA. Some of these other companies have been taking it on the nose, and a lot of them are self-inflicted wounds, right? Right, guys. It's some of it's just they're making bad decisions. Some of it, sometimes the market changes and they're not ready for that. And they're just trying things. But it's glad to see a lot of these companies that have been kind of tripping over themselves a bit lately kind of get their footing back and kind of get their identity back, like EA, like Capcom. So ultimately, man, good topic. So we're going to throw this over to you, Pong. Where are we going next, brother?
Well, let's go here. Some more interesting news came out of actually San Diego Comic-Con today. Hasbro had a little interview. Of course, Hasbro, owners of the Transformers IP, and they were specifically asked regarding the old Transformer games, obviously like Fall of Cybertron, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
was really just looking at this point. I don't know how.
They were asked about those, and they had an interesting response. They said, sadly, apparently Activision's not sure what hard drives they're on in the building.
Bobby was having frat parties, man. What do you mean? They lost the hard drive. They was having frat parties and beer pong and stuff.
They boxed up a bunch of the old stuff and put it in cardboard boxes labeled miscellaneous and threw it in the basement or up in the attic, right? That's what they did with these, supposedly. Sadly, apparently Activision's not sure where the hard drives, what hard drives they're on in their building. When a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's very frustrating. Hope is that now that the deal is moving forward with Microsoft and Xbox, that they'll go through all of the archives and every hard drive to find it all, because it's an easy Game Pass ad. We want those games back up for people to have a chance. Hasbro putting up the bat signal for Xbox here. Like this, I think, goes even a little bit further, and that's what I want to get your guys' opinion on. We've talked about on this show, we've talked about on a lot of different shows, the need or our opinions on the need for Xbox to get some licensed IP, right? To get some popular licensed IP. Obviously, we've seen what Sony has done with it. Obviously, they found the perfect studio in Insomniac to handle Spider-Man, and now going to be handling Wolverine as well going forward. And it seems like they're partnership with Marvel is pretty strong at the moment. We've also just recently obviously found out through the ABK acquisition that Indiana Jones on the Xbox side, they went back and renegotiated that contract, because in the past, Phil has said that it's his personal philosophy that they don't want to handle licensed IP or IP that they don't own. They don't want to work in that space, but they went out of their way when obviously they renegotiated the Indiana Jones deal because of Game Pass to also negotiate exclusivity for Xbox on Indiana Jones, which is a licensed IP they obviously don't own. So with the tides kind of changing and with, a lot of our opinions stating that certainly it would be a great thing for Xbox to get into the licensed IP situation, I kind of wanted to jump into this topic because we're not just talking about potentially backwards compatibility here, getting these games back available on Game Pass as soon as they can find the hard drives that Bobby stashed away somewhere without labeling. And we had a funny comment. I forget who it was in Living Split Screen's chat. Brought up a comment, and I got this image in my head. Somebody said Phil sending Aaron Greenberg down to the basement to search through boxes for the hard drives, and I had that image that Greenberg would be the guy doing it. He'd have his overalls on, he'd be all sweaty and dirty, digging through boxes looking for the old.
In the Vatican, huh?
Yeah,
Vatican
exactly, exactly. But I wanted to ask, obviously, your guys' thoughts first of all on the older Transformer games that Activision obviously worked on. Coming back, once this acquisition is done, if they can find them, assuming that, coming back. I know we've had some previous discussions about this stuff. And then also going forward, what do you guys think? And Mav, I'll start with you being guest here tonight. What do you think about Hasbro? Like, this is like the perfect opening. Is Transformers as big as Marvel? Well, no. I mean, obviously the Marvel universe kind of took over things and it's become everything all consuming. There's a lot of people that are kind of tired of it now too, but at the same time, there's no question that Marvel's kind of on top of the world when it comes to licensed IP, but Transformers, Beast Wars got rave reviews. Like, it's still there. Obviously, you and I and everybody on this panel grew up with Gen 1 Transformers. Like, that's everything. Is this the opening for Phil and everybody over at Xbox that when this acquisition goes through, they approach Hasbro and say, let's get something done, find a studio or two studios to work on some Transformers IP, which I think in most of our opinions would be that it's been underutilized and certainly has a lot of potential. So Mav, I'll start with you. Your initial thoughts just on overall that Hasbro wants these games back and they want them on Game Pass when this ABK deal goes through. And then going forward, what do you think about the Transformers IP potentially coming home to Xbox and just become their exclusive?
I'm a Transformers hardcore Gen 1 fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been disappointed by the lack of respect and use of the Transformers IP over the last 40 years
that,
almost.
Man.
30
Use
years.
the right damn word. Lack of respect, damn it.
Come on.
And
so here's the thing. The High Moon Studio games were the best Transformer games we've ever gotten, right?
Easily.
So they were great games, but they're still not the best that they could be. Here's where I'm going with this. Yes, it's interesting as hell that this came from Hasbro, because like you never see like a IP owner like saying like, I hope they do something with our games now.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like buried, right? It shows like Hasbro really wants something to happen with their IP with these games, you know?
Right.
And they have a lot of IP too. I mean, they got G.I. Joe.
Correct.
I think they have My Little Pony as well. I'm not sure
they do.
on that.
Your favorite IP,
right?
Mav.
But you could go and use this. I mean, obviously they will want to have a discussion. I mean, even throwing out the words Game Pass, that would require some kind of a new deal, right? So if when ABK gets done, if they can go back and obviously find these old hard drives that obviously Activision didn't even care about enough to look for, right? Then that would be amazing. First off, bring those games back. It's an easy entry point. You know what I mean? Go ahead and add those.
Fire up the multiplayer servers, right, Mav?
Yeah, 100%.
Just like you did with Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. I was just about to say.
Shadowrun.
Get a little bit of interest going. Get some people talking about it. Get some excitement. But when you're making that call to Hasbro about Game Pass for this, you say, hey, but if we're doing this, we need to also talk about a future game, right? Because we're gonna pay you for money for these old games to Game Pass, but we have an open dialogue, and let's talk about the future. So let's look at what you got. You got Transformers, which is obviously something that we would love to work on now. We got High Moon Studios who worked on your franchise in the past, but let's go all out here. Let's make the Transformers game that people have always been dreaming of, because now that these licensed huge IP games are on another level than they used to be in the past when those Transformers games came out, right? Like those games were good, but IP like licensed IP games are in another stratosphere. Like you have the Spider-Mans, you have like Wolverine, you have the Batman Arkham series, all these different things. Let's go all out and make the quintessential Transformers experience. We don't make our own Mech Assault game now because of IP issues and stuff like that. So how about let's just like go all out and go into Transformers instead? It is a huge IP. It still draws massive numbers at the theaters. And also with the toys, they're extremely popular. So let's take advantage of it. Transformers, one of the most popular toy brands ever, and go all out. Not only that, you start the dialogue. G.I. Joe, where are we sitting with that? You know, I know there was a G.I. Joe game recently, but you know, it was kind of one of those other kind of licensed games. You know, let's not do that. Let's go all out. Let's go big, and let's do something here. Could you imagine like one of the Call of Duty teams working on a G.I. Joe
I was just
game?
gonna say Treyarch. Treyarch pulls up with a G.I. Joe
I know,
game.
dude. It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So go all out on this and don't hold back and have this whole line of other things. Now, also, I mean, I'm going to take this even to another level. Like Xbox has been trying to find other more kid-friendly things as well to add to their portfolio. And this has been something that they've talked about for a long time. Mm-hmm. So why not go and do some more of these other IPs that they have too? Like, why not? You know, I think it'd be a great fit. And if the dialogue is already there and able to be had, obvious interest from Hasbro, you already have a direct connection with Activision, and just go ahead, make it work, and have this whole have this whole line of Hasbro property games. Go buy Hasbro. Who cares? Just do it. Just buy it.
That progressively got bigger and bigger every time you.
I keep talking, and I'm like, just screw it. Just buy the guys. Just buy Transformers. Like buy G.I. Joe. Why not? I mean, let's just do it. Let's screw the whole thing. Just buy them. You know, I don't know what are they worth. Can't be worth that much.
No idea. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think they're worth.
I don't think they're worth that much. Yeah.
They do own Magic the Gathering too, though. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say Wizards of the Coast.
You know what I mean? Like, let's go. Just do it. Do it all. Just buy them. Just anybody that has interest with bringing a game to Game Pass, just buy them.
Yeah, I agree. No, I definitely think you're onto something there, Matt, for sure. Obviously. So no, I like it. I like it because again, when you brought up G.I. Joe right away, I thought of the last game that we had from them, and it was like, okay, what could they do with G.I. Joe? Because G.I. Joe still has awareness. It's still something that people are interested in, and if you did it right, what better way to reignite the G.I. Joe franchise by having a great game in 2020, whatever, 2028, whatever. Why not? Why not do that? Because again, it's something that you can work with. There's so much there. PTK, let's get you.
By the way, it's a measly 8.69 bill. Okay.
Okay. Easy.
Oh yeah.
Couch cushion money.
A little bit more than ZeniMax. A little bit more than ZeniMax.
Bill's got that under his couch.
So PTK, let's get you in on here, brother. Splash Damage is been. They've shown off a new Transformers game called Reactive. If anybody has forgotten that, we were supposed to be getting a beta at some point this year.
The one
it's the online. No, it's a little bit more realistic.
Oh, that was Devastation, I think.
Yeah, that was Devastation, which actually was a good game, by the way. It was a good game. It had a lot of potential. It wasn't all there, but it was a decent game. But Splash Damage is supposed to be doing an online action game, right? And some of the early screenshots that were leaked did show that it was based around Gen 1, which is, again, I understand the newer audience is all, Beast Wars, this and all that kind of stuff. But let's be real. All of us old heads want Gen 1. Gen 1 is the Transformers to end all Transformers. I've got, you guys can't see because I'm not on camera here, but if you've seen me, I got Jetfire Gen 1 behind me, my original toy. I've sold off a lot of my Gen 1 stuff, unfortunately, but Gen 1 is it. But Splash Damage is coming with this online action game, but we haven't seen much outside of a trailer, some leaked screenshots, so we don't know how this is going to turn out. And let's be real, Transformers, the universe, is big enough to have more than just one game coming from it, right? So we sit here today, and again, as I pointed out to Mav, Hasbro seemingly is like opening up dialogue.
They definitely
Early.
pulling
Like
a
this is
Disney.
like,
They're
yeah,
pulling a
it's
Disney.
like, hey, we're
Anybody
open
want
for
IP?
business.
Anybody?
Yeah, exactly. We are open. And really putting up the bat signal for Xbox, right? Extending this hand right away, saying, hey, when you guys get this deal done, come talk to us. We want these games on Game Pass, these older games. So for you, PTK, when you kind of read this, I know you said you were just looking at this.
Yeah.
You know, your initial reaction, first of all, to the older games coming back to Game Pass, assuming that Greenie can find them in the basement and pull and dust them off and they work. You know, first of all, your initial reaction to that. And then, you know, go ahead, like Mav did. What do you think about this going and getting Transformers and maybe potentially G.I. Joe, maybe potentially My Little Pony or Pound Puppies? I think they own as well. Like, whatever the case. Puppies, man.
We gotta start. We gotta make sure. I heard some blasphemy earlier, what you said regarding My Little Pony. The GOAT is they got Peppa Pig. Let's not forget about the GOAT.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and we've seen the success of Peppa the Pig,
that's
right?
That's the actual big fish here. Not forget Transformers, forget My Little Pony, forget G.I. Joe. Peppa Pig is the big fish.
Yeah.
Well, I think they own Mr. Potato Head.
Oh, see, look.
Let's go.
I mean, come on now. You know what I'm saying?
Go. Think about the crossovers that we could have.
They own Power Rangers. I mean, dude, they bought it from Saban.
Yeah,
looking this up.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's go.
Like, look,
so PTK, give me some ideas here, brother. First of all, your ideas on the older games coming back, and then moving forward. What do you think here, man? What can we get done if we're Xbox?
All right, so we've talked about this, right? We've talked about them digging in the crates. We know Phil has a list, right? This has been something that we've recognized since the deal first was drafted. Essentially, we know that this is something that they needed to do because these games weren't being touched and they weren't being shown the love that they deserve.
Right.
And in reality, the respect that they deserve, because like you said, Transformers has a new movie. I don't know if you guys know, but there's a new Transformers. So it's still popular enough. So anybody out there that doesn't think it's worth the time, it is absolutely worth the time. You don't think people will play a updated, better version of some of these older Transformer games? I think you're sorely mistaken. And on top of that, you have a vehicle now. We can't forget about that at the end of the day.
Correct.
We're here to feed the beast. We need to feed the beast. We need transform these games in Game Pass. I mean, like you said, even the older ones, just to get things started until the new batch rolls around. That obviously is going to take some time. If once again Greenie can find all of the hard drive down in the goddamn basement. Thanks, Bobby, for throwing everything out the window in your late night drunk binges. Probably misplacing all of the damn archives. But either way,
maybe they're in the Cosby room.
Who knows? Oh Lord. Oh my.
Bobby,
where's the key? Bobby, just give us the key, please. I know you got some extra room somewhere around there. Give us the key. It's okay. We won't tell anybody about all the little. Anyway, we won't go there. But
yeah, we won't go down that route. Right? Terrible situation. Yeah, terrible. Maybe it was a little too soon, but
no, but yeah, but either way, I'm super excited for. And once again, the key thing here, this is not coming from Xbox. This is the Hasbro CEO. Saying, look, man, like we'd love to do this. Like you don't really see that often. So like you said, at this point, when you get a CEO out there saying, look, man, we'd love to get all this stuff done. You know, there's some technical stuff, but we are open to all of this. That's exactly what you want to see. And it's telling me that they're ready for business. They're ready for this deal to get done. And they got some IPs that they're willing to let fly. That's the one thing that we don't really get to see a whole lot. So when somebody comes out like a CEO and says, hey, I'm 100% open to this idea, that gets me excited because it's not a developer saying that. It's not some random guy who worked on Transformers 20 years ago saying, man, I'd love to get these games back. That doesn't really have any actual pull. This is a CEO of Hasbro saying, look, I want these IPs to come back. We're open for business. That makes me excited because I know Phil's listening. I don't know if he's already made the phone call. I'm sure there's already been conversation. Well,
maybe Hasbro's already called.
I mean, they could talk to Hasbro. Hasbro's not a part of Activision.
And it sounds like they probably have because Hasbro knows that they're missing, right?
Listen, so they weren't off the table. This is not. They don't have anything to do with ABK. I'm sure they've had open negotiations, right? They could still talk to Hasbro, right? Yep. Like outside of the APK stuff. Do you think that was possible?
Oh yeah, 100% because they can have initial conversations about that stuff.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like I figured that probably was still happening because I mean, you might want to set the table, some groundwork. For once the ink is dry, okay, we've already got the groundwork laid, the foundation laid for what we were planning on doing later anyway. So this is really exciting, man. I want some of the old Transformer games back. I was a big fan of them. When they did drop War for Cybertron. What's the other one? what was the other one that came out around that time too? I can't think of the name, but I was a super big fan of those games. Played a ton of the multiplayer, and like you said, for having Game Pass, it's a perfect kind of game. It's the perfect vehicle for these IPs. It's a perfect vehicle. You already said 30 million people. You know, why not put the game there? And it's been proven that people will go back and play some of these old games. You know, you see it with Call of Duty. You're getting this huge resurgence. Not to compare Transformers to Call of Duty because it's not the same thing. But at the end of the day, you want to give these games an opportunity to breathe, and you have a platform that's perfect for it. You know what I mean? The old game, new game. So I think just if you look at everything, it checks off all the boxes, and it's something that I thought that they would look at anyway. So this just makes me excited, Pong, because this might be a sooner than later situation. Because I always thought, okay, eventually once this ABK stuff gets done, they'll sit down and go over this stuff and sort out what they want to go through. Maybe they've already done it. Maybe Phil has already picked. Maybe he's already looked at Transformers like, yep, that's that. I'm doing that first. I'm doing this second. Maybe he already has his like order of, you know what I mean? Maybe he already has his ducks in a row, so to speak. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Oh my God. Guys,
what?
They own Dungeons and Dragons and Pokemon
trading cards. Dungeons and Dragons IP is a little messed up though. Gaming,
it is.
License
they own Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Coast,
the whole thing.
Right.
They own Monopoly. They own Play-Doh.
Yeah,
They own Play-Doh. A Play-Doh game, man.
Nerf, all of that stuff.
Play-Doh could be like a new Minecraft. Let's go. Let's build Play-Doh stuff. No, PTK, I agree wholeheartedly. First thing that you always need is a willing participant. And that's a big thing. And again, when you've got somebody like actively pursuing you, like, hey,
this is the CEO.
This is
talking on those old glory days when they used to work.
One of the decision makers, right? Out here openly, publicly talking about this. Fuzzy, it is. We've talked about it, right? There was games that never came back because of licensing issues, right? We talk about like the Marvel Ultimate Alliances and that kind of stuff. And we've talked about potentially once this deal goes through that Phil could pick up the phone and ask about relicensing some of that stuff, even just to have it available on the store. Some of it's backwards compatible. That's great. But to have it available again for new people to try out. So when you see, as we just talked about, the big shot of a company that owns some of the IP that you're going to be acquiring here shortly, coming out in advance and saying, hey, we want to do a deal. Let's get this stuff back on Game Pass. Easy. He said it's an easy Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
That's got to be music to Phil's ears, right? Because Phil as a gamer understands, even if it's not the biggest game, right? Even if it's not the Call of Duty, there's still value in having a Transformers IP available in Game Pass. Nowadays, in 2023, people want to go back and play those old games. Xbox has been promoting this. That's why backwards compatibility was such a big deal. People do go play old games as much as Jim Ryan says they don't. All right. So for Phil, it's got to be sweet music to his ears. So for you, Fuzzy, again, I don't know what your history is with those games. I said it on Living Split Screen. I really didn't play those games. I straight up honest, even as big a Transformers fan as I am, I looked at those games. And
that's surprising.
Yeah, that is surprising. But it was during that time when like Mav said, they're not the best games, right? And I was like, at that point, I was like, do I really want to play Transformers? Like, I know the reviews back then weren't the greatest, and I didn't have buddies playing it, so it was like I just skipped those games. I think I either played War or Fall of Cybertron, War for Cybertron or Fall. I think I played one of those two, but did I get into it? No, but would I love to go back and check them out again? Absolutely. So Fuzzy, your initial thoughts, hearing that Hasbro's open to this, and then future stuff. I mean, again, think about a Transformers Battlefront style game, right? Decepticons versus Autobots. So can you imagine like 12 on 12? Like it would be so incredible, man. It would be so cool.
Well, this isn't a coincidence. You have to understand, Hasbro's looking at that license where the movie was just recently released. The what was it? The Primal one or whatever that they just did.
Yeah, the Beast Wars.
They would love to have that transmedia stuff go forward as far as, okay, the movie's out, well, we didn't have anybody to make the game. And they probably talked to, Activision about that, but Activision they're focused on Call of Duty in their current form, and Blizzard's focused on their own thing. So the ones that probably had like the first right of refusal weren't really in a position to make that game probably when the call came through. And he's looking at the news and stocks and stuff, and he sees that Microsoft is going to be the new owner of that business. So he's probably reaching out if they haven't already had a conversation, even though, yes, technically, since Microsoft doesn't own the business, they can't make business deals per se on behalf of Activision, but they can have a whataboutism kind of conversation like, well, it would be nice if, when this deal closes, if we revisit the negotiations on the old games. But by the way, what would it take to have like the license for an upcoming game? And I'm pretty sure they've had those initial conversations. So his post from the guy from Hasbro, it's not a coincidence. There's something definitely going on, because they would love to make that extra money on the toys, the games, maybe a spin-off, cartoon of what they recently released for the movie, things along those lines. Or even if it's just going back to my preference, Gen 1, there's definitely something in the works. So I think this is kind of like putting it out there so it gets fans excited. Like you said, Splash Damage is still working on that Transformers game as well. So this might be like a stopgap in between.
Yep.
So that when that game comes out, it builds hype for that game. Maybe that game goes into Game Pass as well, or maybe that's already a deal in the making that just hasn't been announced, kind of thing. And then that's more revenue or more money in Hasbro's pocket overall, as far as whether it be up front or if it's going to be based on engagement and things like that. So I'm pretty sure there have been several conversations, and we'll probably see shortly before and shortly after the closing of the deal, more things coming out like along those lines. Like I'm pretty sure we'll probably hear something about a Marvel deal as far as for some of the older IPs. Although with it being Spider-Man, that one might be a little sketchy, but I'm pretty sure there's other Marvel IP that they can work with them in regards to it, depending on how a possible restructuring works. Because like everybody knows, everybody's doing Call of Duty and being in the salt mines of Call of Duty, but it would be pretty cool to have a full-on Gen 1 like Battlefront style game with Transformers. That I think it's one of those games that the world kind of misses. There's a whole bunch of thing with the MechAssault stuff as far as the licensing is concerned, but what better way to have somebody slide in the place of that is
better
the ones that own Transformers. It's like I think at least from the state side and the things, it would probably be a bigger hit than MechAssault overall. I mean, there's still a lot of people that would love for a new MechAssault, but you have Transformers. That's that reaching beyond like just those that grew up with the toys kind of thing. The ones that are all that grew up on the cartoons, and then the ones that fell in love with some of the action and explosions of the Michael Bay movies, or even the more recent one. It's not really. I don't think Michael Bay did that last one, did he?
That's a good
I'm not
question.
sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
He's a producer, but he's not the director.
He's not the director.
Okay. But yeah, it just seems like this is like the perfect storm, and we're just getting drip fed some of the stuff before things can be official, because as we know, the ink's not dry on the contract just yet. Sometime between now and October, I'm figuring by Gamescom, we'll probably get the ABK thing announced or wrapped up. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I think this has kind of been something that was laying in the works for maybe a little bit of time, knowing that the Splash Damage game is out there. Maybe that's the stopgap in between, and then full on games as a service, or just a single player story type game. Either one would be fine. And then also getting some of the earlier ones, maybe 60 frame or frame boosts and HDR and stuff like that to them, bring them up to speed for today's audience, and kind of get a feel for the interest in it, so that way when they do start to ink some of these contracts for a future game, they'll know exactly what the interest rate might be, or be able to figure out the expectations of what that would be. But yeah, it's great to see. Hopefully we get more info like this,
Yeah.
not only from other IPs, but more info as this progresses with the ABK deal. We'll see.
Yeah. Agreed. Great thoughts, brothers. I'm all for this. I think this is something they absolutely need to pursue. My mind's just reeling right now when I started thinking about the different styles of games you could do for Transformers Battlefront. Can you imagine if they gave you like the option as a team, like rolling in there with all the Constructicons, and then you build up enough energy and you form Devastator on the battlefield? Like, how cool would that be? Like, there's just so much you could do with this IP. And I think, again, them putting up the signal and saying we're open for business. Phil's got to take this seriously, even though his maybe personal philosophy is we don't want to do a lot of licensed IP. I think Transformers would be a great get for this, and along with a GI Joe or whatever you want to do. I just think getting a partnership with Hasbro, and opening that dialogue up for future projects, no matter what happens. Who knows? What team comes along and says, "Hey, we'd love to do this. We've got a great idea for this IP." You've already built that dialogue with Hasbro, and all of a sudden you've got a game, and you don't know what you're going to get out of it. But my God, what a great chance this is. So I definitely think they got to look into this. I think this was an unexpected moment out of San Diego Comic-Con with Hasbro coming out and saying, yep, we're open for this. We'd love to see those games in Game Pass. Let's go, Phil. I know you're listening again. Go get this. Brother, it's a big time. Transformers would be huge. G.I. Joe would be huge if done right. I think you can pull this one off. So Thank you, brothers, for your conversation.
No, not a problem, man, for sure. So no, great topic. I literally was just reading that. I'm glad you brought it up. I literally just looked at my phone and was reading that. So ironic that you brought it up.
Perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So glad we got into that. Fuzz, take us home, man. Where we going?
I'm gonna keep this one light and sweet. Idle Sloth made a post, or noticed something on the Xbox store. Made a post about the Ubisoft Plus membership being for $1 for the 1 month. And with that being said, a lot of people prior to Ubisoft Plus becoming available on Xbox, there was a lot of speculation or a lot of hope that it would be somehow rolled into Game Pass, whether it's like a $5 additional rider or maybe like a EA Play where it was more of like a vault type of thing, give or take, or kind of combinations in between there. But when they announced the original price, I think it was originally like $15, but I think it's now like what is it listing at, like $17.99. So it's pretty much the new price of Xbox, not Xbox Ultimate, but Game Pass Ultimate pricing. Having it at $1, one, is this going to be something that if you haven't already signed up that you would give a try? And two, do you think this might be a sign that Ubisoft realizes that doing that full price might not be the way to go, and just kind of getting people in the door where it might be something that could eventually be rolled in to Game Pass, or maybe a more reasonable price will get people to spend more on the microtransactions and DLC for upcoming games to kind of at least get people's foot in the door kind of deal. So I'll start with you, Mav. What do you think of the $1 deal for Ubisoft Plus? And do you think it might lead to any future pricing adjustments and things like that?
I think right now they had a realization that they have nothing worth signing up for.
Exactly.
So they're like, in the meantime, until we have the new Assassin's Creed game come out, why don't we just throw this out there to see if anybody takes the bait?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that they may get some traction with Motorfest when it releases. Right now, for me, there's nothing there to sign up for. Right.
Mhm.
I may end up dabbling into Motorfest for a little bit, but it's there's so many other games coming out around that time. It's like why really, when if I want to play that game, I'll just go play the better version of it in Horizon anyway.
True.
So it's kind of strange, that I think it was like a misstep at first just to launch with the full price, especially when they have nothing to offer currently.
Mhm.
In the long run, we're about to have, Star Wars Outlaws, and you got Assassin's Creed Mirage this year, then you're gonna have the Avatar game.
Mhm.
In the long run, there may be value there to sign up for. But it's I'm wondering how many subscriptions they're going to get. You know, at those times, I think they will do okay, but I don't think it's ever gonna take off at the price that it's at. I just don't know if they'll have enough games ever to be able to take off at the price that it's at. So we'll see. I think they'll maybe get a couple million subscribers,
Mhm.
maybe on console potentially at some point, but only after those big hitters release. If they ever take a look at it and start rethinking at their strategy and maybe want to do more of a partnership deal with another subscription service, that's probably the best way to go.
Mhm.
But I think that's also on Xbox and maybe PlayStation or whoever to offer another tier level to make it viable for Ubisoft. And this is something I said early on. Is this never made sense to me how they would fit a $15 subscription service within a $15 subscription service, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if there's Xbox reworks things, but that would take more of a discussion. But I don't think there's even enough there to make Xbox even want to restructure things there for Ubisoft Plus to be included right now, right? Like, is that going to be enticing enough for them to have a whole another tier, right? When
Mhm.
their games are coming out so few and far between, and they also haven't been that great lately, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll see. I think eventually it'll be better, but Ubisoft is figuring stuff out right now, so let's wait and see for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Pong, what do you think about the dollar deal? Are you going to sign up for it for, at least for the month, or do you think this is possibly leading to maybe a price correction or price adjustment down the road?
Um, I can't really push back against what Matt just said. It's simply that they obviously have had no interest in
Yeah.
or very little. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, it's obvious because again, like Matt said, they just got nothing out. That's of value. I mean, again, if you haven't played certain Ubisoft games and you want to go check them out, absolutely for $1, I would say go do it because you get the DLC, you get everything, right? So
Yeah.
even if you are back into, let's say Assassin's Creed Valhalla and you didn't buy the DLC packs, which were quite expensive actually, and you wanted to go check them out, $1, Steel jumped back into them and was streaming, and they've changed a lot. They've got like this whole roguelike mode in there now where you're fighting dragons and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, from that perspective, if I didn't have the amount of games that I have to play right now, especially with like Baldur's Gate 3 coming out next week, I would jump in for the $1 and go check out some of the stuff that I missed DLC wise, just to see how it's interesting. Cause I love Ubisoft games. I mean, again, I've said that as much as I criticize Ubisoft and the Guillermo family and all their decisions are absolutely destructive decisions that they've made through the years. Their games are still like my fast food for video games. I always enjoy something from most of their games, right? Not every single game, but most of their games. So yeah, I would jump in for the $1, but I simply have too much to play, and I'm not gonna even have the $1 worth to go in there and play something right now. Overall, future wise, I've always said that I thought there's a potential there for a EA Play like deal where they either
That's what I'm
squeeze it
waiting
in.
on.
Yeah, squeeze it into Ultimate, or at the very least give us a discounted price, like $5 extra or whatever, $8 extra, whatever. I don't know what that would wind up being. I think there's a potential for that. But knowing Yves and knowing the Guillermo family and knowing them looking at their lineup, Assassin's Creed new Mirage coming out, Star Wars Outlaws coming out next year, they're not going to do that. Right? They're going to say, nope, we're going to have enough new games coming in the next year that people eventually are going to see value at the, what is it, $18? Is that what it is? I can't remember. Is it 18 bucks?
Something like that.
17, 18 bucks.
Yeah.
People are going to see value in that, and they're going to come and subscribe in droves. Just wait. I will eventually, I'm not going to, listen, I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know what this year's going to look like. I don't know what next year's going to look like as far as my game playing time with Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, all these big Forza coming out. I mean, we got massive games coming out here. I don't know what that's going to look like. There might come a time next year where I do subscribe for a couple months where I play, let's say, Assassin's Creed Mirage if I haven't bought it. I play Star Wars Outlaws because I'm looking forward to that game. That is high on my list next year. I would see value in that from the grazer standpoint that I am, to jump in for a couple months and, let's say, play 3 games that I've wanted to play from Ubisoft that I didn't spend full price on. But I also know in the back of my head that those games are going to go on sale for ridiculous sales.
You stole exactly what I was going to.
The monthly fee might be the actual.
The monthly fee by that point.
Within 30 days, those games will be on sale, bro.
Right. So for me, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I hope that I hope that Ubisoft comes to their senses and they look over at EA Play. And even if they have great faith in their lineup, they say, yeah, maybe the $17-18 is out of range. Maybe we cut a deal with Xbox to get a discounted price for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. That would be the ultimate, because then I would potentially jump in on the monthly fee just to have access to that full library, even though I own a lot of them right now. The future stuff coming out, I would eventually see value in having that monthly subscription. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. PTK, what do you think as far as the dollar deal, signing up for it, or do you think this might lead to a price correction down the road type of deal?
I'm on the same train as Pong and Mav with this. As of currently, Ubisoft just doesn't have anything interesting to offer, and this was the issue when they first announced the whole Ubisoft Plus. One, I thought it was going to be part of Game Pass Ultimate. For one, right? Like, because I assumed that dead ass. I assumed because I knew there wasn't anything that I wanted to play from Ubisoft right now. I'm like, oh, they're definitely adding this to Game Pass Ultimate because it only makes sense. They don't have anything there. So at a later point in time, it is going to be more valuable, just not yet. They do have some things down the line. You mentioned the Assassin's Creed. That's people are definitely sign up for that and pay the $17-18 for a brand new Assassin's Creed. At this current point in time, I would not pay $2 for that, $1 even. I have no use for it even at this particular point in time. On top of my biggest point was going to be is that Ubisoft games traditionally go on sale really, really fast. Yeah. Like even the games that do well, they go on sale really fast. The DLC, everything's on sale within like a month. So there's really not a huge incentive. And once again, if it's not going to be part of Game Pass Ultimate, and we'll see that down the line. Hopefully they renegotiate and they can add it like a more of an EA Play rather than its own separate service and subscription. I think the sweet spot would be maybe like a $7.99, $8.99. I'd probably pay for that, right? Like even if I didn't use it on a monthly basis, $7.99, $8 isn't too big of a stretch for what they offer. There's a lot there. So I don't want to discredit what Ubisoft has. If you're not familiar with Assassin's Creed or, some of the Star Wars games, things like that, there's a lot there. But for a player like myself who've experienced all of that, I've played all those games, there's not yet. Waiting for Outlaws to come out, obviously. The new Assassin's Creed is going to come out at that point. You're probably going to see a bigger uptick. Maybe some people jumping on because it's $1 just to see what's in there. $1, that's a kind of deal where you just throw out there and people are going to sign up just because it's $1. Like they may not ever go in there and play anything, but it's so cheap. It just makes sense. Like, you know what? I'm going to just sign up for now. Maybe I'll get bored and take a look in there one of these days and maybe find a gym that I've never played. But yeah, I'm on the same page as Mav. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense for me right now. There's nothing in there that's going to keep my attention for long enough. And on top of the fact that so many other games to play right now, you got to compete with everything that's coming out right now. We're in the golden age of gaming. Sorry, Pong, I know I said it first, but we're in the golden age of gaming right now, and there's so much to play, and people's attention are going to be taken up now. So I'm probably just going to wait until they get something worth playing in there, like the new Assassin's Creed later on this year. Maybe I'll take advantage of it. And because I know you said the benefit of it is you do get the DLC and some of the other add-ons, which is kind of cool. So, I'll probably take advantage of it at that point. But right now, I just don't see the point of even bothering with it.
Understood. Yeah, I'm looking at this deal where, Motorfest is right around the corner, and the dollar deal makes it interesting. Even though I think I got accepted for the beta, I didn't even start it up because I just, time is of the essence. It's just one of those things. We don't seem to have enough time to play all the games that are coming out. And as much as I try to, schedule like, oh, let me play an hour of Division, let me play an hour of Forza Horizon, let me, catch up on Diablo, let me go back to Insurgency. Yeah, it's already I wouldn't say a hassle. It's definitely part of the hobby, but I don't know. I'm hoping this is a sign that they realize that they're probably better off doing something more like EA, even if it means more of a vault system going in there where it's like included in Xbox Game Pass Ultimate type of deal, or like you said, somewhere between like a $5 to $8 range as far as for an add-on subscription. But the biggest problem that Ubisoft seems to have is that their releases have been more sporadic than what Xbox was for 2022 from their first party. So it just seems like at this point, it's great for anyone that doesn't already own a lot of the Ubisoft games. Like pretty much every Ubisoft game that I've ever wanted to play, I already own. So, and I usually own it with all the DLC. I think the only one that I didn't get all the DLC for most recently was Far Cry 6. I got, I think, the middle one and didn't get the one with the additional seasons or something along those lines. But I haven't even finished that one at this point. So it is definitely a good deal for someone that may not have a lot of the Ubisoft games and wants to give it a try, even if it's just for the 30 days. Don't forget to cancel the subscription for it if you're not willing to pay the 18 additional after the fact. But yeah, I'm hoping they come to an understanding that like a $5 to $8 rider on the ultimate subscription is probably their best approach. But great thoughts on this, guys. Didn't want to go into too heavy of a topic, but figured it was a reasonable deal worth mentioning, although the content at this point is a little on the light side. But we'll see how long they continue that dollar deal. I think it's for like the next 10 days or something, like until August 8th or something like that. So sign up now if you can, if you want to give it a try. But outside of that, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show on that note. It's still a phenomenal show, even with the late start. Once again, I do apologize, but shout out to all you beautiful people in chat that came out once again, showing love here at the Shop Podcast. Shout out to Mav. Once again, I sent the bat signal up. I shot it out late this time, but he came through as usual. So I greatly appreciate you, Mav. So we'll start with you for sure. Appreciate you coming on. Like you said, you're my cousin, family member here at the Shop Podcast, man. But man, let everybody know where they can find you if they don't already know, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, man. It's always a pleasure to be here. Love everything you do, and if you guys want to check out what we got going on, just head over to X.
You had to let that hang in the air, didn't you?
Head on over to X and follow me on X at Fun Speculation, where you can find out all about our shows and podcasts and stuff, which are on YouTube at on Fun Speculation. And we have 3 shows. Mondays, Fun Speculation Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, Pong, Soul, and I for PM and the PM at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Friday nights, Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have a blast each and every week, so come hang out and have a blast with us.
Awesome. And shout out to you once again, man, for coming through. I appreciate you, brother. Every single time. I love having you here, man, for sure. So you're like an extended family.
Too,
absolutely. So you guys go check out FSP, man. I'll make sure I go back and edit your information and add it in there. But you guys do me a favor. Go show some love to FSP. One of the most consistent, best shows that you'll get. Get your gaming fix there as well too. So shout out to all the FSP fam. Appreciate you guys stopping too as well too. But let's throw this over to my 2 right-hand man, to the guys that make this show work. Start with you, Pong. Another awesome show. A bit of a late start, but we got it going. Still great topics. We got everything in this week, but let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, great show tonight. Obviously, always great to have Matt back on again. The brother from another is just a welcome sight whenever he shows up. So thanks for being here, Mav. And of course, PTK and Fuzz. Glad we had the show tonight. Was thinking we were going to miss it. I was no. There goes my Saturday night.
No,
I can hop into Diablo early, but still, I want to talk with my brothers. So, but no, great show. Chat, you guys were amazing again, showing up in great numbers again on a Saturday night to join us. So thank you all for being here. Really good discussions in there as well. Even on a light topic week, it's still just such a blast to get together and talk about this stuff, speculate, and just have a good time. So thank you all for that. Nothing but love and respect. Obviously, like Mav said, you can find me on the X at Pong Soul. always, and on Xbox at Pong Soul. We got double X's now, man. We got X and we got Xbox. So let's go. Anyways, you can find me there as always.
Let's go.
Let's go. Triple X's, baby. Let's
I knew
go.
that was coming.
No,
One
we just
more
need
X.
YouTube. We just need YouTube to go to Y and then Zuck to go with a Z just for threads, right? We could have XYZ. That would be great
Yeah,
for
good
social
point.
media. Let's go. Let's see here. Otherwise, you guys know the drill. Next week it starts all over again. Always we'll pump up Boom shows, even though he doesn't need it, Mr. 13K now. But I'm still going to pump him up because he pumps everybody else's shows up. So guess what? Get over there. Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. Mr. Boomstick is the man. Every Tuesday, Xbox Factor Podcast, all good things green, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. And then Thursdays, it's PM in the PM. PCMR in the PM now because Mav has joined the ranks. But no, we're going to keep the PM in the PM still. So join us there. Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time every Thursday night. And then, of course, Fridays, it's Xbox Ultimate, where you never know what's going to wind up happening. It was weird last night watching you guys, Mav, with a 3-man show, but it was still awesome. Normally, that's the biggest show of the week over on Fun Speculations channel, but we always have a great time. So join us every Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Lots of laughs, but lots of gaming talk as well. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, it's Living Split Screen. That's right. My brother from another steel, Rain, and I, where we go 3+ hours. Get ready, buckle up, be there every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, where we give you the energy you need. And we try to discuss things from different perspectives than you might have heard the rest of the week. Living Split Screen. Yes, we are now YouTube partnered, but we are still on our mission to get to 1K. And then from there, obviously the moon. So join us there every Saturday morning. And then, of course, I'll be back here, God willing, for the Shop Podcast, my favorite way to end the Saturday night next weekend as well. And a quick congratulations to our Saturday morning brothers over at the Gaming Circle Podcast. TK, Asante, and the one and only Everborn hit their 100th episode today. They had a huge show over there. Much success, continued success to those guys. We love them. It's great to share the Saturday mornings with them. And listen, they're not marathoners like me and Steele. So they get out of there early and Steele and I are still going, right? So just hop on over to us afterwards. But shout out to them. Congratulations to them both on the 100th episode. Otherwise, it's the golden age of gaming, people. Get out there. Enjoy it. So much to play. I'll be talking some Baldur's Gate 3 next week with you guys here. But play what you love what you play. And I'll talk to y'all real soon. Thanks, PTK.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, Mav. You guys know Mav, the Duracell battery here at the Shop Podcast. Go follow him. Get some of that good energy. It might rub off on you. Go play some video games, man. But shout out to you, Mav. Appreciate Mav. Shout out to you, Pong. Appreciate you, brother.
No, that's fine. Give Mav all the credit. He deserves it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I know, right? No, but shout out to you, Pong. Thank you so much, man. You guys know what to do, man. Go follow Pong. But throw this over to you, Fuzz, man. Everybody know where they can find you as well, brother.
Always enjoy doing this with you guys, and always great when we have Mav on as a guest. It's pretty much like a family reunion. But man, just great week, even though light on news, but yeah, always fun to talk about stuff, and glad we were able to get this show in and everything. But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, you can find me on social media, the app formerly known as Twitter, Fuzzy_Belvedere, or just search anywhere, Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word. You can also find me on Gamers Council tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Outbreak Gamers or Web Dave's YouTube channel tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then you can find me on Monday at 12 noon on Xbox Lunch Break Special on Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick, Crazy Lou, and Web Dave. And then later that evening on FSP on Fun Speculation Network at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then right back here on Saturday for a Shop Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on PTK Blam's channel. Look forward to seeing you guys there.
Man, appreciate you, Fuzzy. You guys go follow Fuzz as well, too, man. You got to add some shows to that resume, man, for sure. So the easiest way to keep up with Fuzz is going to be going to follow him on the app formerly known as Twitter. So go follow him on X, all right? So, and last but not least, your host here, host the most here, PTK Blam across the board. Go follow me on X. Go follow me on the Xbox. That information is down in the description if you guys want to play some games, man. Another phenomenal show in the book. Shout out to everybody who came through. I know the show started a bit late, but your boy was tired, man. Had a long day, but I'm shout out to everybody who did come through and everybody that's gonna watch us on the replay as well. But man, another show in the books. You guys enjoy your weekend. The Shop Podcast 313 will be next week, same time, same place. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy your night. Be safe.
Later.